efforts with India to increase liquefied petroleum gas or LPG imports for 3 months to prevent shortages during upcoming major festivals. Nepal Oil Corporation says gas imports have increased, with 39,774 metric tons imported during the first 22 days of this fiscal year, which falls roughly in July and August. At the current rate, imports could reach about 55,000 metric tons for the month, compared with 44,318 metric tons by mid-August last year. Officials say the gas shortage is gradually easing after the government resumed sales of full cylinders following several months when half-filled cylinders were supplied. Nepal consumes around 46,000 metric tons of LPG each month, and industry officials are urging consumers not to stockpile gas unnecessarily as supply conditions improve. Nepal has intensified market inspections to prevent black marketing and artificial shortages of cooking gas amid complaints from the consumers. The Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Supplies says gas imports from India are continuing normally, but some traders are allegedly creating shortages and selling cylinders at inflated prices. Officials say monitoring has been strengthened in coordination with the Ministry of Home Affairs, particularly at gas depots in the Kathmandu Valley, Nepal's capital region. Industry Minister Gauri Kumari Yadav has urged Home Minister Sudan Gurung to mobilize security personnel to help control activities that disrupt supplies and affect consumers. Home Ministry says police have been instructed to provide the necessary coordination and support, while officials report that gas distribution is gradually becoming smoother. Nepal is observing the 32nd World Indigenous Peoples' Day with rallies, cultural performances and programs highlighting indigenous rights, identity and heritage. Indigenous communities including the Newar, Magar, Gurung, Tharu, Rajbansi, Santhal and Kirat Rai have taken part in events across several districts. In places including Tanahu, Morang and Dhankuta districts, participants showcased traditional skills, occupations, languages, cultural practices and knowledge passed down through generations. Organizers are calling for stronger protection of indigenous languages, cultures, traditional lands, forest and natural resources, along with greater participation in government decision-making. They say preserving indigenous heritage is essential for future generations and for building a more inclusive society that recognizes the rights and contributions of the indigenous people. Nepal's President Ramchandra Paudel has called for greater participation of indigenous peoples in state policy-making and decision-making to ensure their rights. Speaking at an event marking the 32nd World Indigenous Peoples' Day, Paudel said Nepal's ethnic, linguistic and cultural diversity is a source of national pride. He noted that indigenous representation at the local government level has reached 36.8%, but said access to education and higher levels of decision-making still needs to improve. Paudel also highlighted Nepal's ratification of ILO Convention 169 on indigenous and tribal peoples and constitutional provisions for protecting indigenous rights and interests. He called for traditional knowledge, skills and technologies to be linked with tourism and economic opportunities to strengthen indigenous communities. Let's take a short breather here. We will be back with more updates. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World Primetime News. Now on to remaining updates. Nepal government has proposed tougher legal measures to control child labour, including a ban on employing children under the age of 15, except in limited education and development-related activities. A bill registered in the House of Representatives on July 30 would allow children aged 13 and above to perform certain light work in areas such as agriculture, animal husbandry and handicrafts outside school hours, with parental consent and strict limits on working hours. The bill would completely prohibit children from hazardous work, including employment in brick kilns, mining, chemical industries, construction-related risk, and other sectors considered harmful to their health and development. It also proposes mandatory health checks, skills training, working hour restrictions, equal pay for equal work, and access to Nepal's Social Security Fund for children legally employed under the limited provisions. Authorities at all three levels of government would be responsible for enforcement, while employers who illegally employ children could face up to 1 year in prison, fines, compensation payments, and doubled penalties for repeat offences. Veterinary officials in Thading, a central district in Nepal, have warned of a rising rabies risk following an increase in dog bite incidents. A stray dog that reportedly bit several people later died after showing symptoms consistent with rabies, and its brain sample has been sent to a central lab for confirmation. Officials have identified Benighat Rorang, Thakre, Netrawati, Dabjong and Tripura Sundari rural municipalities, along with parts of Thunibesi and Nilkantha, as higher risk areas. The veterinarians are urging residents to remain cautious and are calling for regular anti-rabies vaccination of community dogs, while warning that dogs can contract the virus through contact with infected wild animals. Authorities conduct annual sterilization and vaccination campaigns, but officials say controlling the growing stray dog population, particularly around markets, remains a major challenge for public safety. Tourist access to Anthu, a popular scenic destination in eastern Nepal, has improved after major repairs to the Fikkal Anthu road damaged by landslides last year. The road was severely affected by unstable ground and landslides during a disaster on October 10, 2025, disrupting travel to the area. Reconstruction includes 2 4-meter-wide slab culverts, concrete structures, and gabion walls designed to stabilize slopes and improve the drainage. The Ilam Road Division says about 80% of the gabion work and most of the culvert construction has been completed, although the overall project is still underway. The restored section is already allowing larger tourist vehicles to reach Anthu, which attracts more than 100,000 domestic and international visitors each year and is renowned for its sunrise views over Nepal's eastern hills. Kiran Singh, a former mayor of Kapilvastu municipality in Nepal, has been found dead after being reported missing on Friday. Police say Singh's body was discovered in a forest area near the motorcycle he had been using after search teams spent several days looking for him. The 65-year-old left his home in Kapilvastu municipality around 2 p.m. on Friday, and CCTV footage later showed him traveling toward Ramraj Bridge. Police said Singh contacted a close friend after reaching the bridge and reported that he had lost his way in the forest, prompting relatives and local residents to begin searching for him. His motorcycle was located a day before his body was found, and police say an investigation is underway to determine the circumstances surrounding his death. A community-run initiative in Thangari in western Nepal has been providing full vegetarian meals to low-income and vulnerable people for just 20 Nepali rupees, or about 13 US cents. The service operates twice a day, morning and evening, in the bus park Gol Bazar area of Thangari Submetropolitan City. Around 150 people, including daily wage workers, rickshaw drivers, students and others from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, receive meals each day. Launched about 18 months ago under the patronage of Swami Rahul Ishwarananda Giri, the initiative is being run through the Rishikesh Peeth Dharma Conservation and Promotion Committee with the help of volunteers. Organizers say the service is open to anyone in need and are preparing to expand it to Patela, while emphasizing that continued public support will be essential to sustain and grow the program. The financial condition of Nepal's Upper Tamakoshi Hydropower Project Limited has improved after 4 years of losses since the start of electricity generation. The 456 megawatt project in Lamabagar Dolakha has benefited from improved plant operations, higher electricity sales, lower hydrological penalties, and reduced interest rates on long-term loans. Acting CEO Purna Gopal Ranjit says the company has now reached a position where it is earning a profit of around 1 billion Nepali rupees. Upper Tamakoshi had previously been required to pay a hydrological penalty to the Nepal Electricity Authority when its power generation fell below the level expected from the water available in the Tamakoshi River, paying about 1 billion rupees in penalties over 4 years. However, the company did not have to pay the penalty in the last fiscal year, further improving its financial position. Time again for another breather. We shall be back with international updates. Oman has said that positive talks are being held with Iran over an agreement to secure a shipping route through the Strait of Hormuz, as Tehran warned that any deal would not see an immediate reopening of the vital waterway. Both sides suggested on Saturday that discussions were progressing, but a timeline on any deal being finalized remained unclear. Oman's foreign ministry warned against attacks on shipping that could hamper that. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said talks were in their final stages, but the reopening of the strait remained subject to other conditions. Tehran has effectively blockaded the waterway through which around a fifth of the world's oil and natural gas usually flows, since the US and Israel began attacking it in February. A Russian strike on the Ukrainian city of Odessa injured 8 people and sparked fire across several parts of the city, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Firefighters were working to extinguish the blazes, including one at a 4-story residential building in central Odessa that was damaged in the attack. The strike caused damage to residential and other infrastructure in the city, with emergency crews deployed to assess the damage and respond to the fires. The attack also disrupted emergency response operations as crews worked to contain the fires and assess damage across the affected areas. Typhoon Dolphin landed on China's east coast on Sunday, bringing powerful winds and heavy rain as authorities warn of flooding and landslides. Nearly 1,400 flights at Shanghai's 2 main passenger airports were cancelled on Sunday, according to state broadcaster CCTV. Singapore Airlines also cancelled 8 flights to and from Shanghai and retimed 10 flights scheduled for Monday and Tuesday. Hangzhou Airport in nearby Zhejiang province cancelled about 270 inbound and outbound flights, according to CCTV. The storm is expected to continue through Monday with sustained winds of up to 162 kilometers per hour before weakening inland, according to China's National Meteorological Center. Authorities moved offshore workers to safety, ordered vessels back to port, and increased inspections of reservoirs, mountain streams, construction sites, and other high-risk areas. A state of emergency has been declared after thousands of people were forced to flee their homes as a fast-moving wildfire in a remote part of Western Canada spread rapidly, doubling in size since it was first detected on Friday. The Bald Range fire now occupies more than 103 square kilometers across the Summerland, Beachland and other districts of British Columbia, according to the BC Wildfire Service. British Columbia Premier David Eby told a news conference on Saturday that one fire official had likened the fire to a bomb going off. A state of emergency allows the provincial government access to special powers, including travel restrictions and supply protections, to prevent price gouging and extra resources to coordinate the rescue work. Colombian President Abelardo de la Espriella has ordered the transfer of 117 high-profile inmates to maximum security prisons at the start of his term, according to the authorities. The inmates had participated in peace talks under former President Gustavo Petro. The transfer marks an early security measure by the new administration as it seeks to tighten control over high-profile prisoners. The move could also signal a tougher approach to security and negotiations with armed groups under the new government. The move comes as the new administration signals a tougher security policy toward high-profile prisoners involved in the previous government's peace process. Let's take another breather here. We shall be back with more international and sports update. Japan's Nagasaki marked the 81st anniversary of the U.S. atomic bombing on Sunday, with city officials and representatives from 98 countries attending an annual peace ceremony. The city observed a moment of silence at 11:02 a.m., the exact time the bomb exploded on August 9, 1945. More than 73,000 people were estimated to have died by the end of that year, while many survivors later suffered radiation-related illnesses. Survivor Chiyoko Motomura, who was 6 years old when the bombing occurred, delivered a pledge for peace, calling for the protection of human life and an end to the war. Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi said Japan would continue to uphold its 3 non-nuclear principles and pursue efforts toward a world without nuclear weapons, reaffirming Japan's position as the only country to have suffered atomic bombings during the wartime. France's national mint, Monnaie de Paris, has launched the Marianne ore, a pure gold bullion coin designed as an investment product. The coin is made up of 999 purity gold and is available in physical form. Investors can also opt for the digital e-Marianne ore, with the underlying gold securely held by the Monnaie de Paris. The new coins are minted at the Monnaie de Paris facility in central Paris, which has operated at its current site on the banks of the Seine since 1775. The launch marks France's return to investment-grade gold coins after more than a century. Vietnam is working to develop crop varieties that can better withstand climate change as drought, salinity, and pest threaten agricultural production. More than 33,000 plant genetic resources from over 200 crop species are preserved at the Plant Resources Center, including more than 26,000 seed accessions stored in its gene bank. However, only about 20% of the resources have undergone detailed evaluation for their genetic traits and potential use in crop breeding. Scientists are regenerating and testing preserved varieties to develop crops with greater resistance to drought, salinity, and pest. Some varieties are also being returned to local communities, with pilot models increasing economic efficiency by at least 10%, according to the Plant Resources Center. Time now for sports update. Nepal's National Sports Council, the country's main government body overseeing sports, has called its 125th board meeting after an 8-month gap. The meeting is scheduled for next Thursday and will be the council's first board meeting since December 24. Among the key issues expected to be discussed are preparations for the 20th Asian Games, the date for Nepal's 10th National Games, and the suspension of the All Nepal Football Association, or ANFA. Although the formal agenda contains 9 items, these 3 issues are expected to dominate discussions because of their significance for Nepal's current sporting calendar and administration. The meeting is expected to provide direction on preparations for major international competition, as well as the country's domestic games and football governance. FIFA has condemned a concerted and ongoing effort by some to undermine the World Games governing body and its president Gianni Infantino as the controversy over his now shelved private investment plan rumbles on. Infantino has faced calls to resign and was also subject to allegations from a British newspaper on Friday that he paid off a lover while at European governing body UEFA. FIFA in statement has said recent reporting has included unsubstantiated assertions and demonstrably false claims concerning FIFA and its president. According to the Telegraph newspaper, the Italian-Swiss lawyer previously used his influence to secure a promotion for a UEFA employee with whom he was in an intimate relationship with. The newspaper added, without revealing its sources, that the same employee received a 6-figure sum upon her departure, in addition to the payment of tuition fees for a business school amounting to around $60,700. Infantino, who is standing for re-election next March, has been embroiled in a crisis since the announcement late last month of his controversial and ultimately abandoned plan to open up the World Cup to private investors. He faces opposition in particular from UEFA, which on Thursday stood by its threat to boycott the World Cups, deeming the mere withdrawal of the controversial plan to be insufficient. Fans and residents in the Argentine city of Rosario gathered to pay their respects to Lionel Messi and his family following the death of his father, Jorge Messi. People in the Argentine city expressed condolences and offered support to the football star and his family as they mourned the loss. Messi remains a highly popular figure in Rosario, where he was born and began his football career. Meanwhile, Messi and his family arrived in Rosario to attend the funeral of his father. Jorge Messi played an important role in his son's football career and was closely involved in his professional life from the early stages of Messi's rise to international prominence. The funeral brings Messi back to Rosario as the family holds a private farewell for his father. This brings us to the end of this bulletin, but before we wrap up, here's a reminder of our top stories. Nepal boosts LPG imports from India, market inspections intensified to curb shortages. Nepal marks World Indigenous Peoples Day. Communities call for greater rights and cultural protection. Rabies risk rises in Thading, Nepal. Dog bite cases spark health alert. Oman and Iran advance Hormuz talks. Strait reopening still subject to conditions. Typhoon Dolphin makes landfall in China. Several flights cancelled. And FIFA defends Infantino amid growing controversy. Governing body rejects claims as president faces pressure. That is it for this edition of Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be up at 2200 hours Nepal time. Meanwhile, do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website at nepaltelevision.com. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu, Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries, where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World, taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Welcome to the Hinterlands on NTV World. This weekly show brings together stories from the hinterlands of Nepal, takes you beyond the cities and highways into the heart of Nepal's rural landscapes. I am Rosina Rai. We begin in Bardia district, where the timeless sound of the sarangi is slowly fading. For generations, members of the Gandharva community traveled from village to village, playing Nepal's iconic traditional string instrument while sharing stories, folklore and local news. Today, however, this centuries-old tradition is at risk, with only a handful of musicians continuing to preserve this unique cultural heritage. Here is our first report.
पहिला सारिङ बजाउँदामा गाउँघरमा घुम्दाखेरि एउटा घरमा बजाउँदाखेरि गाउँभरिकाले आएर सुन्दै महत्त्वपूर्ण गर्थे अनि कति घरमा बोलाएर लिन्थे कसैले अनि कति सेवा संस्कार गर्थे अहिले त हातमा मोबाइल छन् घरमा टिभी छन् अनि उतातिर मोबाइलतिर हेर्छन्
65-year-old Birjit Gandharva has lived in Badhaiya Tal rural municipality in Bardia as a landless resident since 1994. Playing sarangi has been associated to the Gandharvas for ages, but the traditional profession is almost extinct now. Many like Birjit, who have nothing but the traditional instrument to make a living, have now been lured by alternative profession or foreign employment. While the sarangi has long been his family's livelihood for a long time, Birjit says it is no longer enough to support his household. The sound of the sarangi, once a familiar part of daily life in this Gandharva community of Bardia district in mid-western Nepal, is now rare. Located in Ward number 4 of Badhaiya Tal rural municipality in Bardia, the settlement is home to 105 households, including 65 from the Gandharva community. Families who migrated here from other parts of Nepal like Dailek, Jajarkot, Surkhet, Salyan, Rukum and Dang districts have lived here since 1993. While playing the sarangi was once the main source of income for most households, today only 5 or 6 residents here continue the tradition, and that too only occasionally.
गाउँतिर अब कहिले कसै सारी लिएर जाने कहिले काम गर्ने कहिले रिक्सा चलाउने कहिले इन्डियातिर जाने सबै काम गर्ने छ त्यस्तै गरेर जीविका चलाइएको छ त्यहाँतिर हुर्काइयो अझै हुर्काउँदैछ सर
Limited access to farmland, education and alternative employment, along with declining income and recognition for the sarangi performers, has driven many young Gandharvas to take up other occupations or seek work abroad. Community members say financial hardship has also prevented many children from continuing their formal education. In such a situation, Gandharva community leaders say the traditional art of playing the sarangi and the unique cultural heritage are no longer being passed on to the younger generation.
अब अहिले नयाँ पुस्ता चाहिँ तपाईको चाहिँ वैदेशिक रोजगारीमा कहीं कतै यसो चाहिँ तपाईको चाहिँ साउदी अरबतिर कतारतिर जाने स्थिति बनेको छ भने धेरै युवाहरू चाहिँ भारतको कालापार गएर जीवन गुजारा गरिरहेको अवस्था छ र सारंगी नछुने एउटा चाहिँ तपाईको चाहिँ एउटा खालको स्थिति बनेको छ.
The sarangi is more than a musical instrument. The traditional bowed musical instrument also reflects the history, identity, and cultural heritage of the Gandharva community and is an important part of Nepal's folk music tradition. However, without stronger efforts to preserve and promote it, community leaders warn that this unique cultural legacy could gradually disappear. From preserving culture to protecting indigenous crops, Nepal recently marked the second National Millet Day, renewing efforts to promote millet cultivation, improve nutrition, and strengthen food security. But despite these initiatives, the latest data show that both the area under millet cultivation and national production continue to decline. This report comes from Gulmi district.
The second National Millet Day is observed across Nepal with the slogan Conserving and Promoting Millet Crops for Food and Nutrition Security. Following the United Nations declaration of 2023 as the International Year of Millets, Nepal has stepped up efforts to conserve, promote and expand millet cultivation. The day aims to protect indigenous crops, promote nutritious food systems and encourage farmers to expand millet cultivation. Although millet is grown in all 77 districts of Nepal, hilly districts such as Gulmi, Arghakhachi, Putan, Palpa, Baglung and Sangza remain the country's major production hubs. Despite its nutrition importance, the government data shows that the cultivation and overall millet production have been declining in recent years. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, millet was cultivated on 224,935 hectares of land, producing 300,732 metric tons in the fiscal year 2023-24. In 2024-25, the cultivated area declined to 214,477 hectares, while production dropped to 284,352 metric tons. A similar declining trend has been observed in Gulmi and other hilly districts of the country. Several millet varieties, including kodo, finger millet, junelo, sorghum millet, kaguno foxtail millet, and chino proso millet, are cultivated across Nepal's diverse agroclimatic zones.
कोदो एकदम ज्यादा रुपे पनि फल्छ तर यसको लगानी ठुलो छ अब यो लगानीको लागि अलि कृषिलाई चाहिने अलि राज्यले पनि हेर्ने
कोदो रोपेको हो के मरे खेतमा 300 350 भन्छन् नि
Traditionally used to prepare dhiro, a traditional Nepali staple food, flatbread, and local beverages, millet is now gaining popularity among people as the demand for healthy and nutritious food continues to rise. Meanwhile, farmers in Rumzatar, Okhaldunga in eastern Nepal also celebrated the second National Millet Day by emphasizing the conservation, promotion, and branding of millet and millet-based products. On the occasion, 7 leading millet farmers were honored for their outstanding contribution to millet cultivation. Our next story takes us to Sangza district, where a historic hilltop village is fighting to preserve its identity. Kolmakot is known for its stunning Himalayan views, rich history and distinctive cultural heritage, but like many rural communities across Nepal, it is being reshaped by migration, and meanwhile residents want that without greater investment in conservation and a stronger tourism promotion, the village's unique identity could gradually disappear.
Perched about 1,450 meters above sea level, Kolmakot overlooks parts of central Nepal and the northern Himalayan range. Despite its scenic landscape and cultural significance, the village has received little attention as a tourist destination. Local historians say Kolmakot's name comes from a traditional stone oil press once used to extract mustard oil, reflecting the area's long agricultural history.
तोरीतेल थियो गरे तोरीतेलेर तेल झारेर यहाँ चाहिँ कोल बनाएर त्यो ठाउँको नाम कोलमा राखेका रे हेर्नुस् अब यति भएर हामीले यसलाई संरक्षण गरेर राखौं भनेर यतिको बनाएर राखिएछ.
Residents say the village has long been home to Gurung and Dalit communities and continues to preserve elements of its traditional culture. To support the local economy, villagers have opened homestays for visitors. But many younger residents have moved to cities in search of education, jobs, and better opportunities, leaving the community increasingly deserted. Locals now fear that if the trend continues, Kolmakot's history and cultural identity could fade along with its shrinking population. In response, residents have begun working to preserve the village's heritage and promote it as a tourism destination.
कोलमावर भन्दा भन्दा कोलमा हुँदा हुँदा पछि कोलमा रहेको भन्ने चाहिँ एउटा बनाइहरू चाहिँ पाइयो र लामो समयसम्म पनि त्यो ढुङ्गा सुरक्षित भएको कारणले अहिले हामी अलिकति बुझ्ने अलिकति पछि गाउँको लागि एउटा पर्यटकीय पहिचान पनि हुन्छ भन्ने सोचले सम्बन्धित गाविसहरुमा पनि यो कोल संरक्षणको लागि.
Residents say better infrastructure and stronger promotion of lesser-known heritage sites could attract more visitors, create new sources of income, and help keep rural communities alive for future generations.
Now to Kanchanpur. For decades, Nepal's endangered Raji community has struggled with poverty, landlessness, and social exclusion. Although the government introduced a social security allowance more than 2 decades ago to support this highly marginalized indigenous community of the country, many Raji families still live without a secure land, remain vulnerable to flooding, and have few opportunities to earn a stable income. For many, the dream of a safe and dignified future remains out of reach.
पहिला भन्दा त खाना त पाइन्छ पहिला त धेरै दुःख पाइयो 4-5 दिनको भोकले पनि एक छाक पनि खान पाइएन कति भोगियो कति के गरियो अहिले भर्खर अलिअलि सजिलो भएछ.
The Raji are one of Nepal's most endangered and marginalized indigenous communities. Despite decades of government support, many families continue to struggle with poverty, landlessness, and limited opportunities. For 63-year-old Jalu Raji of Bhajani municipality in Koilali, life has always been closely tied to the forest and rivers. She is one of the representatives of Raji community. Once a nomadic people, the Raji traditionally lived along riverbanks and in forest, surviving by catching fish and gathering wild roots and tubers. In 2062 BS, the government of Nepal introduced a monthly social security allowance for members of the endangered Raji community. Permanent settlements were also established, helping many families move away from the traditional nomadic lifestyle. But while their way of life had changed, many of their challenges remain. Most Raji families still do not own registered land. Jobs are scarce, and the small plots they cultivate are often damaged by floods from the Kandra River, leaving farming an unreliable source of income. For many households, the monthly allowance has become their main means of survival. Community members say it has helped reduce hunger, but it has not lifted them out of poverty. The Raji community is concentrated in Koilali, Bardia, Surkhet, and Chitwan districts. According to 2021 National Population and Housing Census, Nepal is home to 5,125 Raji people. More than half, that is 2,521, live in Sudar Pashchim province, including 2,375 in Koilali and 113 in Kanchanpur.
घर अग्लो बनाइदिए भए हुन्थ्यो अनि बाढी आउँछ हाम्रो समस्या
पहिला पुर्ख्यौले चाहिँ त्यो मह र के गिठा नै निकाल्थे त्यहीमा मान्छे पहिला सिन्थे अनि यही अलिअलि काहीँ मजुरी गर्थे
अब कहाँ सजिलो रहे पहिले सजिलो रहे पहिले जाउँ चीज फिर बढ़े रहा था अब तो डॉक्टर बिना नहीं बने.
Community members say government support should go beyond monthly allowances. They are calling for secure land ownership, safer housing, better education, and sustainable employment opportunities, measures they believe are essential to ensuring a dignified and self-reliant future for the Raji community.
The growing stray cattle crisis has emerged as one of the most pressing challenges in Nepal's Tarai region, threatening both agriculture and public safety. Despite millions of rupees spent by local and provincial governments on cattle shelters and management program, farmers continue to suffer heavy crop losses while stray cattle remain a serious hazard on the roads. Experts say lasting solutions will require stronger policies, better coordination, and sustainable livestock management, not cattle shelters alone. Here is our final report. The stray cattle crisis has become one of the biggest agricultural and public safety challenges in Nepal's Tarai region. Thousands of abandoned cattle roam freely across the districts such as Koilali and Kanchanpur, damaging crops and creating serious risk for motorists and pedestrians. In response, local and provincial governments have invested more than 150 million Nepali rupees, about 987,000 US dollars. Despite the significant spending, the crisis remains the same. Dhangarhi sub-metropolitan city alone has spent 26.3 million rupees on building and operating gausalas, cow shelters. Other local governments have also invested millions of rupees in similar efforts. Among local governments, Dhangarhi sub-metropolitan city has achieved comparatively better results through regular rescue operations and improved shelter management. Even so, farmers continue to lose crops and stray cattle remain a major road safety hazard. Without strong policies, better coordination, and sustained long-term investment, the crisis is expected to continue affecting thousands across the lowlands.
लगभग 5-4-5 लाख मात्रै हुन्छ एकै ठाउँमा 2-3 करोड लगानी गरेर पुरा त्यो गौशाला नै म्युजियम बनाएर अर्थ बनाउँछ.
The data show stray cattle have been linked to the deaths of 7 people over the past 3 years.
दुर्घटनाको संख्या बढी गएको भएर यसलाई चाहिँ हामीले विकराल समस्याको रूपमा लिएका छौं.
Authorities say continuous rescue operation and better management of shelters have helped reduce the number of stray cattle on major highways.
सामानहरु सामग्रीहरु हैन अनि त्यो भौतिक आवश्यकता सेडहरु हामीले बनायो.
The continuing crisis exposes gap not only in implementation but also in monitoring and long-term planning and demand coordinated action from all levels of government, local communities and other stakeholders. Beyond the cities and the headlines, real lives continue to unfold. Stories are shaped by struggle, strengthened by resilience, and carried forward by hope. This is the hinterlands, and we will come back next week with more stories from the heart of Nepal. Do follow us on our website, nepaltelevision.com, social media handles, and YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye for now.
Only after 6 decades of the institutional development of the now popular game of cricket did Nepal get the opportunity to play in the World Cup. Although cricket was introduced in Nepal during the Rana regime, the sport was confined to a limited number of people, namely the elite. It all started with equipment brought by students returning from their studies in Britain and India. Although Cricket Association of Nepal (CAN) was established in 1947, cricket remained centered among a few affluent individuals and in limited tournaments for a long time. Starting with the Bishnu Trophy in 1948, tournaments were limited to competitions like the Madan Memorial Sealed, Jugal Kishore Trophy, Rammani Trophy, and later the Jai Trophy. Even as the sport expanded outside Kathmandu Valley, it took decades for cricket to develop at the grassroots level. After the International Cricket Council (ICC) granted Nepal affiliate membership in 1988, Nepali cricket embarked on its international journey. The rule of mandatory participation in tournaments by the ICC and the Asian Cricket Council (ACC) opened doors to international competition for Nepal. After participating in the Under-19 Asian tournament in Hong Kong in 1996, Nepal has not looked back. Winning titles at the Asian and global levels, Nepali cricket team continues its journey towards the pinnacle of world cricket.
Goes down the ground because he was given that line outside off stump, so the first boundary of the contest, a handsome one.
Initially confined to Tulikhel in Kathmandu, many international tournaments were hosted in Nepal after an international standard ground was built in Kirtipur. Nepal has also shown its proactiveness in differently abled cricket tournaments like the T20 World Cup for the blind in 2012 and the Asian Cricket Tournament for the deaf. Nepali women's national cricket team has also achieved remarkable success in a short period of time. The latest addition in Nepali cricket is the floodlit Tribhuvan University Cricket Stadium and the Nepal Premier League that has provided opportunity for Nepali players to rub shoulders with world-class players. Hello, welcome to Declassified Beyond the Brief on NTV World. I'm Devendra Subedi. In this episode, we try to explore a young Nepali artist's journey From Kathmandu to the global stage, her journey from scribbling pictures in canvas to becoming the first contemporary Nepali artist to be included in the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, United States, in itself is fascinating. We will try to explore art, its forms, the artist herself, her life and work, and that is no less than an example for all the budding artists. Let's welcome Sneha Shrestha, aka Imagine.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Let's start with this Imagine thing.
Sure.
Can you explain what this Imagine exactly is?
Sure. I mean, when I was first introduced to art as a young adult after graduating from college, I was really introduced to graffiti. And a lot of times graffiti artists have sort of what is called a street name. And when my mentor at that time asked me to choose a name, you know, I really didn't have an idea. But then I thought of what was closest to my heart, and I automatically thought of my mom. And my mom's name is Kalpana. And so when you translate Kalpana into English, it means imagination.
Is that what you're wearing right now?
Yes, actually. Yeah. This says Kalpana, and, you know, it's my way of keeping my mom close to my heart. And every time I sign my name, I get to write her name.
You were influenced by graffiti, as you said, and now sculpture also you are pursuing, and you are mural painter as well. You have followed different forms, the art, right? The name itself, this name that you have chosen, doesn't sound graffitish-like, but closer to your roots, your families. Was that something worked on or thought about?
Yeah, I wanted to choose something that felt like me. I didn't want, and I also needed like a shorter name, so like Imagine instead of Imagination made sense. And really my family and where I come from is really what roots me into my work, and so it made sense.
I'm really excited to have you here in our studios in Kathmandu.
Thank
we
you.
caught you as you were here in Kathmandu for some project work, as you said. What is art exactly, Sneha? How should we define art? I know it's a very abstract term. This could have multiple understanding and interpretations, but how would you, as a performing artist, define art?
Well, as a visual artist, I would define art as self-expression. It's a way of sharing how I see the world.
Just that much?
Yeah.
What about the feelings?
I mean that is like, that includes everything, right? Like how I see the world, how I'm feeling about it, how I want people to see what I'm seeing. I think it's a powerful form of self-expression.
Art is something you are interested in or you like. When was the first memories of drawing something? When was it?
I think my first memory was watching my mom translate these English children's books into Nepali children's books. It was a time where there weren't a lot of Nepali children's books, right? So I remember, you know, the story of the ant and the grasshopper. I remember it was, you know, my mom was translating these books. She would write them in Nepali, and then she would draw them into like large books. She was a teacher. She was a teacher. And so she would take that to her. She was my Nepali teacher, actually. And so she would take it to the classroom and teach us in Nepali, but she would make it exciting, right? If you think about the books, even till now, textbooks and maybe texts on newspapers kind of look similar. Right? But then the way she would draw these pictures larger than life and the letters, you know, like much larger so that kids can read it. I think that was my like really, you know, first memory of like being fascinated by what colors can do, what these like broken pieces of color pencils can do on paper. But I mean, I've loved art and painting really all my life. So I think it was just a matter of, you know, will I do
When
this?
would I just discover it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a thing where I was like, I want to be an artist.
Was there somebody who saw the brighter side of your painting and told you that you should be doing this when you were a child?
That's a good question. I think I found myself getting drawn to painting all the time. It's just something that I loved doing, regardless of whether I had an art class or not. I just found myself doing it all the time. Even when I went to college, I had my, I majored in globalization studies. But in addition to that, I would find myself sneaking in art classes and making time for that. And so I just knew that that's something that felt like me, and I was just gravitated by it.
Any specific elements that you draw inspiration in your present day, let's say, art, Nepali culture, something that is rooted in something that is pretty Nepali-like?
Yeah, I think everything about my work is kind of rooted into where I come from, how I grew up in Kathmandu, my household, what my mom and dad showed me that is part of my, our tradition and culture as Newari people. I think it is hard to represent a whole country, being given that our country is so diverse. We speak more than 100 languages just inside Nepal, so it's impossible for me to represent the whole of Nepal. But what I realize is that I can tell the story of how I grew up, and hopefully other people can resonate with that. It really came from the need of expressing myself in terms of who I am. Because usually, I think even till this day when you're in the US, people are like, okay, you're from Nepal, oh, Mount Everest. That's about it, right? Yeah. And so how do I explain that I don't live anywhere close to Mount Everest? No, I haven't climbed it. Yes, I've seen it, but that doesn't tell my whole story. That doesn't tell your story. It doesn't tell my story, right? So I think it came from a struggle of saying, how do I tell people who I am? Where do I even start? I think that struggle became real over time. And I think art really helped me talk about, this is, how my mom does things at home. These are the colors that I was surrounded by growing up. These are temple, shapes of like different temples that is part of our, everyday architecture in Kathmandu. When you're walking around, there's a temple here, there's a temple there. There's so much fabric, like celebratory fabric around. And I think that's what I wanted to share. Because your identity isn't just one thing, it's all these things you're surrounded by, you grew up with. So I think that's where it really came from.
Tell me something about your fascination for that particular script.
Sure.
Because that connects to what you said just now. I'm fed up answering the question that I'm not somewhere near from Mount Everest. But you translated your art, you brought that into your art, expressing your culture. Somewhere there, very close to that. Is it your answer to that question by adopting that Devanagari in your art?
Sure, it feels closer to answering the question that I've ever gotten to, because Nepali letters are, I can confidently tell someone that these are Nepali letters. It's based in the Devanagari script. Devanagari script is used to write Nepali and Sanskrit and Hindi, and Sanskrit is one of the oldest written forms of languages in the world. And the fact that we can write Devanagari so casually, like a kid can write in Devanagari, like Nepali so casually, it's really a point of cultural pride for me to look at my native letters and be like, look, this is so important. So much of history is based on this. So much of written history is based on this. This is really something special, guys. Like, look at this. So getting to say that and being excited about it really got me started.
Everybody is an artist somewhere in the heart, they say, but until somebody recognizes it. Do you remember when was your first work of art? Somebody said that, yes, this is awesome. You should make more and more of it. Do you remember when was that moment?
That's such a good question. I'm smiling. I'm like smiling because there really wasn't that one time, it really took time to realize that this is something I want to do. This is something that I can make happen. It took a very long time. It wasn't like, going to school here and everything. I hadn't even met a real living artist in my life when I was in school. I hadn't been to a gallery, right? So all of that came later in my life. So it wasn't one moment. It was a series of moments that I looked back on and connected the dots. And I think that's what I continue to do, is connect the dots in terms of, okay, this makes sense. This feels good. Let's move forward with it. So I would say it was a series.
You got family support when you wanted to pursue this as a career?
I think it creeped up so slowly that it wasn't a turning point. It was like, I was taking my whatever I was trying to do at that time along with my artwork. And so it built up over time. So there was no turning point in that, hey, I'm going to do this sort of. But I would say there was one moment after I finished my master's where I spoke to my family and I was like, hey, just give me 1 year where I just want to try this. I feel like I've done everything. I'm confident that I can find a job if this doesn't work out. Can you just give me 1 year? I just want to try it out. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And it's been 8 years since, so I'm not sure what to say.
You went to the US to pursue your bachelor's degree. Still, you're not aware that you're going to be an artist?
No.
Were you?
No. It wasn't, a lot of people ask me, like, is it a dream come true? And literally, it wasn't even in my dream. It wasn't in my vocabulary that it was something that I could do. Being born and raised here, it wasn't a career path that someone was like, hey, this is a possibility. I think, it happened over time as well. So, like, bachelor's degree is 4 years in the US. I think it was like 3.5 years in, my professor told me, you've taken enough art classes to be an art major. We know you're a globalization studies major, but do you also want to add this? You just need one more class. And I was like, wow, I had no idea. Sure. That's how I became an art major. It wasn't like I want to be an artist and I should, And I think even after graduation, I wasn't working as an artist. I was working at an arts nonprofit at that time, but I wasn't working as an artist. And I think it was over time that it happened.
As a student, how were you? You were a bright student, weren't you?
Good question. A lot of people, I think it's an interesting question to ask because I didn't consider myself a bright student when I was up till high school. I was in the same school from like 3rd grade till 12th grade. I wasn't considered a good student. I was considered like a troublemaker. I was always told I was like a bad kid, and that my ideas weren't valid ever. And I always used to have this question like, why can't I answer it this way? Because this seems like a right answer too. Like I was always curious, I think the first time I really enjoyed learning and I felt like I wanted to do my homework and wanted to read was when I took this anthropology class in college. And I was like, wow, this is so interesting. This is what feels like to enjoy learning. And I guess that's the point where I started wanting to be a good student. I think before that, it felt like a necessity that was placed on me, as most students might feel. But at that point, I was like, wow, I really am looking forward to doing my homework. I want to read this book so that I know, what's going on in class and stuff like that. So it's a complicated question, to say the least.
Why I asked you this, because you studied at Harvard's in full-fledged scholarship.
Correct.
A dull student wouldn't do that. Or a dull student like me would not be able to do that, would I?
I think it's a definition of like what's a good student, right? Okay. Is a good student, saying yes to everything? Is a good student following the instructions exactly like you've given them? Is a good student not asking any questions and just nodding your head in agreement? Or is a good student a critical thinker who will ask you questions back because they're curious? Because I'm that kind of student and I feel like I'm a student of life. I continue learning. So in terms of that, I am a student. But I'm not sure if a good student is like a...
Inquisitiveness in you led you to this career. If I say that, would I be wrong?
No, I think you'd be so right. I think it was that curiosity of like, what if? What if I gave myself 1 year to try this out? And not being scared to kind of take that step and being okay with the fact that it could not work out, and that's okay. But if it works out, that's great too. So being okay with the unknown is such an important thing to have, I think.
Would you say there's no harm in being bad by asking questions or being inquisitive? Follow your passion? Would you say that, or would you say be a good student, do your homework, listen to your parents and teachers? Which one would you suggest?
I would say both. I would say if you're smart, you have to be part of the paradigm too that the school system is set on. Yes, you do need to get good grades. You do need to be a good student. At the same time, also be yourself. If that means being curious and asking questions, then do that. So I think it's not just as simple as like follow your passion.
My next question, Sneha, being a Nepali, abroad for studies, following your passion, was it difficult initially?
Yeah, I think it's always difficult when you follow your passion, especially when it's something that no one has done before in your vicinity at least. I think that's why it took me a long time to come to it. I think if someone was like, hey, you're really good at art, you should think about being an artist and this is what you need to do to be an artist. If someone told me that, I think I would have been in a different place now, but I think it was a lot of trial and error to figure out what I want to do. And I think it's important to do that at the same time because that's sort of part of finding yourself, right? And once you do, there's really, you know, you kind of feel invincible in a way that you feel like this is me. And, you know, there's no doubt about it.
Tell us something about mural painting. How is it different from other forms of painting or art, let's say? What exactly is mural painting?
Sure. So my background has been in graffiti, and graffiti is based on, it's an art form based on letters. And, you know, it started in New York City by young people at a rebellion. And so they would paint really large pieces of like their name on trains, on walls. And so that's really what got me started. I was really interested in painting. Now murals are, you know, graffiti pieces can be murals. Graffiti is mostly like letters. It's a very big emphasis on looking at letters as images. Murals are large paintings on walls. I think in terms of aesthetics, it really depends on the viewers, like who is viewing it. I think that's the beauty of art, that it's subjective, right? It's like something that I love might not be something that you love, and that's okay. So a graffiti piece can be part of a mural. Mural is basically a really large work of art on like buildings and walls, and that's, you know, really large. So the aesthetics can really depend on the artist. It can be anything really. It can be a portrait. It can be someone's name really large. Yeah.
Allow me to ask this question. Is art emotion, expression, or devotion?
I think it's all of the above. I think it's so much of trying to express yourself in the most authentic way you know how. And I think without devotion, that is not possible because it takes so much to come to understanding who you are, and then even more to understand what you want to say, especially when you're given a platform. So I think I would say it's all of the above.
Any special reason for choosing the first alphabet?
Sure. So when I started realizing that I wanted to use Devanagari script to create my paintings, there was this sense of empowerment that I had. I was like, wow, this makes so much sense. It's, you know, it's amazing. And then, you know, I used to try writing different words. But then when the pandemic hit, that was a difficult time for everybody, right? So, you know, I wasn't painting outside. I was just in my apartment, and I came back to painting in a way where I was, you know, I just wanted to feel sane. I just wanted to feel the comfort of maybe home. I was missing home so much at that time. Obviously, it wasn't a good time to come back home. So I was really turning to painting to find that comfort. And I was really thinking about, you know, what is the essence of home? If I can't, is it just a physical space? And if it's not, then what is the essence of home? And one of the sort of like things that I thought about was home is like the same comfort that you have when you can run up the stairs of your home, even when the lights are out. During load shedding, every Nepali kid, you can go up and down your stairs.
They could do that
yeah,
because they
like,
know it.
Exactly. That's home, right? That's the comfort of home. That's the familiarity of home. And I wanted to capture that essence. And then I could only write ka. I found myself writing ka over and over again, just like a meditation. And then over time, I was just obsessed with, you know, how I want to write it. And then after that, I was like, okay, now I want to write it the exact same way. Like, I'm pretty sure you can write ka with your eyes closed. Why? Because it's the first letter that we learned how to write. And it's the same as the comfort of home. So when I figured that out, I was like, yes, I just want to write this for now. And that's where, you know, the repetition of like the letter ka began. So.
What satisfies you the most? the price that your work fetches, the comment from critics, or the relief that you feel after expressing yourself out?
That's a good question. I think it's the reason why I chose this job is because this is that one job for me that lets me be myself 100% real and be myself 100% in the most authentic way I know how. So if in a project I'm able to express myself 100% like that, that is what makes me really happy and satisfied. And yeah, and I think it's a powerful thing to be able to be yourself 100% of the time, every single day. And then over time, you also learn to be okay with yourself. So I would say, yeah, I think authenticity, my voice is what's most important to me, which is why I do what I do. So I would say that's what would make me more...
What is the best compliment you have received from somebody who loves art after having seen your work?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. I think it depends on who says it. I think what jumps in my mind right now is when, like in Boston or even here in Kathmandu, when I meet young people and they say, you know, I could really see what you're trying to do, what you're trying to show. Or like in Boston, there might be Nepali families who come and show, like parents, they show their kids, like, you know, this is what it is and this is what she's trying to do and I'm not even around. I think that's the biggest compliment for me.
Let's go to mural painting again. Can you just walk us through the process from the concept, designing, and up to the wall? Can you just walk us through the process? How does it go?
Sure. So a big part of the mural, of creating a mural, especially a really large one, is the collaboration element of it. For example, my 6-story tall mural on the MIT building, that took a lot of collaboration. Even before the painting process began, we have to work with the city, permits, the local business district people, and then local stakeholders, people in the neighborhood. I think that's the part that's invisible, but that's the part that takes most time. Can we paint this wall? Is this wall stable to be able to be painted?
Once you're done with all the, let's say, legals and those sort of formalities, now it's time to conceptualize your vision on the field. How long does it take? Your MIT, let's say, mural we're talking about.
Yeah, I started by like taking photos of the wall, and then I also spend a lot of time in front of the wall to see how people walk around it. I want to see how people experience the wall, what the wall looks like at sunset, at sunrise, because my work is going to be there and I want it to have a good home. I want it to make sense. So it's a big part of it is understanding the environment that I'm in. And then I start, taking pictures, and then I'll print them, and then I'll sketch on the building, and then start the process.
Sneha is the first Nepali artist whose work has been acquired by 2 world-famous fine art museums. How does it feel, Sneha, to have that heavy cap over your head?
It's pretty exciting. I think it's, the Museum of Fine Arts, the painting that was acquired, it's in their permanent collection, and to think that it's going to be there long after I'm gone for other Nepali people and people of various cultures to be able to see, I think that's a really powerful thing for me to realize. I think it's wonderful to be able to see a contemporary Nepali voice. I think it takes away from the mysticism, the stereotypical kind of box that Nepali people and Nepali culture is usually put into, especially in Western museums. We're seen as this culture of like ancient, of like past, but the truth is we're a living tradition, we're a living culture. We're people who practice all these things till this day. We're not just people of the past. I think it's important to leave behind such stories in important institutions like museums. And the other one is at the Harvard Art Museums. It's a sculpture that they acquired, and it's going to be on long-term view, and it's in their collection as well.
Fine art museums like Boston or Harvard, they are acquiring pieces from artists from Asia as well. Are they becoming more and more open to the international artists as well, or if I say that, I'd be just undermining your creative talent?
I think the world is globalizing, has globalized over time, right? And the US is a melting pot of various cultures. I do think there's a realization that there needs to be a representation for all these cultures that make up the country. And so it's an important time to be part of that conversation.
So you were the first to be from this country. Now, does that inspire you to work harder and you know, what's next am I going to do sort of thing? Does that give you more inspiration or make you more desperate?
It encourages me. It gives me a signal that I'm doing something right, and it feels right. And people from various parts of Nepal that I meet in Boston and other parts of the US, I feel encouraged by them when they see it. I think people who visited Nepal and are not necessarily Nepali see Nepal in my work, and that's a point of pride. It just gives me a green signal that I'm doing something right. And I'm motivated to keep going.
How does it feel to be the cultural ambassador of the country in the melting pot?
Around
the world you're traveling now. How does it feel?
That's a huge phrase to take on.
You are, Sneha. You are the first artist from this country to be represented there. Not just represented, but acquired by those institutions. So that does give you the tag of being our cultural ambassador abroad.
I feel like it's important to carry on the work that I'm doing. I think it's important to share to younger people what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, so that maybe the younger generation can do it even better than I am doing it, and I hope that they do. I think it's so important to carry my people wherever I go, however the best I can. At the end of the day, I'm just one person, so hopefully there's more people who get the opportunity to do the same and represent, you know, their part of their Nepali life.
This is Declassified, and we are talking with Sneha Shrestha, contemporary Nepali mural artist, sculpture, graffiti-based artist, and a fusion artist. In the next part of the conversation, now we talk about the best works of Sneha. Which of the works that you have done so far is closest to your heart? I would be definitely not doing justice to you by asking this question. I know you are the creator. Everything is very, very dear to you. But still, if you have to pick one,
sure,
which one would you pick?
I mean, my mentor has always told me you're only as good as your last piece. And so I would love to talk about, you know, my most recent show at the Institute of Contemporary Art. These are pictures from the Institute of Contemporary Art where I'm currently exhibiting my work. It's part of the Foster Prize show. The Foster Prize is one of the most prestigious art prizes in Boston, and it's something that I've been eyeing for the past 6 years, and I've really wanted that prize really badly. And you know, you can't apply for it, you have to get selected for it. And when you get selected, you get to have the show at the Institute of Contemporary Art, and it's for Boston artists. And so to be selected for that felt incredible. And when something I wanted came to fruition, it was like, okay, it's time to do what you felt ready to do for a long time, is have sort of like this first solo museum show, and you get to show a big body of work.
How are you expressing yourself in these two pieces?
Sure, so these two pieces are part of that show at the Institute of Contemporary Art, the ICA in Boston. These two pieces are my first art-shaped paintings. These are 7 feet each, and they contribute to the architectural feel of the space. In this, you see fractals of the Devanagari script. So they're not necessarily words, but if you looked at the alphabet really zoomed in really close, that's what you would see, in my opinion.
I can see Ka on the blue side of the canvas.
Yes. So like, you know, I call it like the shadow part. So if you think of an arch, that's sort of like the shadow part of the painting. That's where you see the repetition of Ka. And I brought the Ka there because my first painting acquired by the Museum of Fine Arts, that painting is a repetition of Ka over and over again.
Let's move on to the next one.
So this is the painting that was acquired by the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, and it so happened that when my mom was visiting me, it was on view, and so I got to take her there and, you know, show it, and her, you know, reaction just...
This must be very close to you. Ka there, your mother, Kalpana there, and you are the Imagine there. So this is a masterpiece,
This
I would
was
say.
a special moment for sure, and this was a painting I actually created in 2020 during that time that I told you about during the pandemic, you know. And the curator, Laura Weinstein at the MFA, recognized that, and she chose this as the painting to be acquired.
Probably this is the largest piece you have, of mural you have painted?
It's not the largest, but it is the tallest. It's about 60 feet tall, so like 6 stories. And it's in the heart of Cambridge, and it's at the confluence of various neighborhoods. You know, MIT is right there, so a lot of students get to see it. A lot of Nepali students at MIT have shown me the you know, that they're there and like tagged me on it, which is super cool. Yeah.
You just do it all alone, right? Or you just need some helping hand to finish this piece?
No, I wish I could get a helping hand, but because it's my handwriting on the wall, I do it all myself.
So all alone, apart
Correct.
from the machinery that has been used, it's all you who has done it?
Yes, and I operate the machine as well. So the articulating boom lift that you see me here, I operated myself. And my photographer was on the other end of it taking this photo.
Okay, this is how it looks once it's done.
Yeah, so for scale, you can see like tiny people on the bottom.
So it's a really huge mural. Tell me something about this one. This I can clearly see car, your very dear car there. Tell me something. Where is it?
I think this is in Michigan. This was the moment where I really was dedicated to the letter Ka, and I felt confident enough to paint it so large and be able to tell people, you know, this is the first letter of the Nepali alphabet, and this is what it means to me. And so I feel like this moment was that moment where I felt like I have arrived. I'm so confident in telling people about this language that they know nothing about. But I felt, you know, that I could.
Tell us something about this one, Sneha.
Sure. So this is a sculpture. It's called Dwarpalika. This is the sculpture that was acquired by the Harvard Art Museums. It's currently on view. We actually just installed it before I left. And, you know, my parents were able to see it. And this is, you see the repetition of Ka. It's made out of brass and powder-coated steel. And yeah, it's sort of suspended from the ceiling, and it kind of has this aura about her. I call her her, because there's that energy that she has, and there's a environment that's like built around her because of the shadows that are laid on the floor. So it's a really special piece for me.
When the creator like you hand your piece of work to museums like this, how does it feel? Like shedding your skin or something like that?
It feels emotional because I remember the day that I packed this. You know, it takes a long time for acquisitions, for museum acquisitions to happen. And so when I recognized that it was the last day that I packed her up and dropped her off at this storage facility. It's like you don't drop it off at the museum. So storage facility, and I just said, the next time I see her, she's going to be installed. And I definitely had a tear in my eye, and I was just like, wow, it feels like such a moment to kind of take in. And it's bittersweet for sure, because you work towards something for so long, and then it's going to be at this really important place for a very long time. It's definitely an important moment.
Sneha, let's talk about this one. This looks really, really large.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty large mural. It's in East Boston. It's by the water. Mm-hmm. So you can see it from the other shore of Boston. And it was this really special piece that I got to do, and I wanted to make sure that I did 3 circular shapes, because 3 is such a sacred number with everything that we do in our rituals and pujas and everything. And so I really wanted to talk about that. And it is... it's one of my largest works.
Fantastic. We're so much fascinating these works, Sneha.
Thank you.
Please allow me to do this, okay? Pick one of these pictures. Of all these pictures we have done and your sculpture we have displayed here, if you had to, okay? You can't escape this.
Okay.
Pick one only.
Okay. I think I would pick the Cambridge one. The Cambridge mural that you saw, the really tall one, because that tested me in different ways. That it's kind of like building a muscle, right? You're tested and there's pain, and then you grow stronger from it. I think it's one of those pieces. That's why it's so close to my heart. And also, so many people have kind of, at this point, the mural kind of belongs to the city. It's not my work anymore. So many people attach their stories. So many people have gotten married in front of the mural, like take their wedding photos.
You must be a special guest in those ceremonies.
No, but I get sent these photos. Young Nepali students at MIT take selfies in front of it. I mean, it's really part of the city's DNA at this point. And so I'm really honored to have that work there.
Fantastic. The works of Sneha Shrestha, aka Imagine, some of her works. These are just some of the works that she has produced. There are so many things she's working globally, working with multinational projects where she's working not only in the US but around the world. Now, last part of our conversation, Sneha, you are an inspiration to the youth. What message do you have for them? All those who want to pursue their passion and build a career out of it, or let's say pursue their passion only.
Sure, I would say take time to figure out what you want to do. It might not be as soon as you graduate high school. It might not be as soon as you finish your bachelor's degree. It's a process. I would say look at it as a process and make sure that you find joy in the process. And there's no really this end place that you get to that you'll find happiness in. I would say if you're happy in the process, then you're really closer to finding yourself. Figure out what is the most authentic version of you and kind of use that as a compass to pursue whatever you're pursuing. So the message here isn't go out and be an artist. The message is, find out who you are and what you love doing. And that might not be your job immediately, but just finding something that you love doing is such an important part of being. So, yeah.
What message would you like to give to the youngsters who are looking up to you as inspiration?
I would say it's okay to be different. It's okay to think differently. It's okay to ask questions. And it's so important to have mentors. I think those are the things that I would love to share with younger people.
What is life, Sneha?
Life? I think it's a process. I think it's like this fun process that you get to try different things out in. And yeah, I think that's what life is.
Striking a balance in life, how important it is.
I think it's so important to balance out. I think it's important, first of all, to find a compass of what guides you. For me, what guides me is my happiness, and that could mean in different ways. That means being able to see my parents as often as I want. That means being a good friend. That means building communities in both of my homes, in Kathmandu and in Boston. These are things that really kind of make my life, and kind of make things clear, like what are important to me, and that's my community, that's my friends and my family. And I think once you have that compass, everything kind of starts falling into place.
Last question to you, Sneha. Your career goals and your personal goals.
Sure. I think this sounds so, I'm not trying to boast it, but I think I'm living it as, career and personal goals. As an artist, it kind of melds into one thing. And I want to take both of them side by side. So if my career helps me express myself even better, that's amazing. Things that I might say no to, that might be, for my personal life. And I think balancing those things is quite important. But both of that is still me. So I got to take both of them in a balanced way. So, yeah. Okay, so I have something that I brought for you. It's a sticker. And it has the first letter, Ka, on it. And it's something that I do for everybody that I meet. I give them a sticker. And the background for that is really, when graffiti writers meet each other, we exchange stickers. Street artists, murals, we exchange stickers. And I really like to do that. And stickers something, playful and a little bit of joy. So, yeah.
My privilege, Sneha. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful conversation with a Nepali contemporary artist who is definitely a world-class artist, Sneha Shrestha, whose name in itself is imagined, that correlates to her roots, her mother. Thank you so much for watching this show, and definitely do follow us on our website, our social media handles. Until next time, from me and my entire crew of Declassified, bye-bye.
Home Bahadur Tamang, a gifted Thangka artist from the spiritual heart of Buddha, has turned his craft into a global bridge between tradition and business.
Thangka चाहिँ मैले 1970 सिक्न सुरुवात गरेको। मेरो टिचर चाहिँ म भन्दा अघिल्लो मेरो दाइ हो, साइला दाइ। मेरो चाहिँ बाउपादेखि नै कलाकार हुनुहुन्थ्यो। पाटन, भक्तपुर, छामेल, दरबार स्क्वायरमा यसै पसल बेच्ने काम हुन्थ्यो। अनि त्यो बेच्दा मैले यो थाङ्गा चाहिँ विदेशीले किन्दो रहेछ, आफैले विदेशसँग बेच्नुपर्छ भन्ने अलिकति मनमा मलाई अलिकति सोच आयो। त्यसपछि मैले 2050 सालमा यहाँ सुरु गरेँ, आजभन्दा 32 वर्ष अगाडि।
What began as a young artist's journey through the streets of Kathmandu has blossomed into a thriving enterprise where sacred art meets business and tourism. With every brushstroke, Home brings Nepal's rich spiritual heritage to the world, transforming Thangka painting into a symbol of cultural fusion.
त्यो बेला चाहिँ पसल कोही पनि यहाँ थिएन, किनभने त्यो मार्केटले चाहिँ कहाँ मार्केट हुन्छ भन्ने खोज्दो रहेछ। त्यो खोज्ने क्रममा म यहाँ आइपुग्यो। विदेशीहरू पनि यहाँ त्यति अहिले जस्तो बस्दैन, 5 मिनेट 10 मिनेटमा घुमेर जानुहुन्थ्यो। त्यतिखेर खाने रेस्टुरेन्ट पनि एकजना मात्रै थियो, एउटा मात्रै थियो। अहिले चाहिँ होस् त्यो बेला र अहिलेमा धेरै आकाश जमिनको फरक भएको छ।
His story is one of passion, innovation, and a deep commitment to preserving tradition while embracing the future.
विशेष गरी यो बौद्ध स्तूपसँग रिलेटेड छ। यो बुद्धको शिक्षासँग रिलेटेड यो थाङ्गा चाहिँ संसारको मानिसहरू यो स्तूपलाई घुम्ने क्रममा यो प्रार्थना गर्ने मेन आउने ठाउँ चाहिँ यो रहेछ। त्यसो भएको हुनाले यो चाहिँ विशेष गरी ओल्ड हेरिटेज साइटमा चाहिँ त्यो पनि के हो बुद्धिस्टको भएको हुनाले चाहिँ नेपालभरि कुनै थाङ्का बिक्ने ठाउँ चाहिँ अति महत्त्वपूर्ण चाहिँ यो नै हो वास्तवमा, किनभने रिलेटेड छ यो बुद्धसँग।
From the hills of Ramechhap to the heart of Buddha, Home Bahadur Damang has a glorious story to tell. A story of will, determination, struggle, and success.
म आफै पनि रामेछाप दुर्गम जिल्लामा जन्मेको चाहिँ रोजगार छैन, त्यहाँ स्कुल छैन, कलेज छैन, हस्पिटल छैन, रोजगार छैन। त्यसपछि म पनि रोजगारकै क्रममा यहाँ आएर मैले सुरुवात गर्यो। अहिले चाहिँ म लगभग 49 वर्ष भयो यही पेसा गरेर दाल भात खाएको। अब नयाँ पुस्तालाई पनि मैले हस्तान्तरण गर्नुपर्छ है भन्ने मेरो एउटा उद्देश्यले चाहिँ अहिले मैले नयाँ पुस्तालाई चाहिँ गाउँबाट आउनुहुन्छ, स्कुल सकेर अनि बिहान चाहिँ कलेज जानुहुन्छ, दिउँसो काम छैन। त्यस कारणले मैले 3 महिना फ्री ट्रेनिङ दिने गरेको छ। उहाँको स्किल अनुसार टेस्ट गरेर हामीले यहीँ तलब दिएर जस्तो बिहान कलेज पनि भ्यायो उसो कति हो त्यसो त्यहाँबाट एक्स्ट्रा टाइम चाहिँ 5 घण्टा 6 घण्टा 7 घण्टा पनि यहाँ जीवन चलाउने चाहिँ काम भइरहेको छ अहिले।
For 49 years, he painted, taught, and empowered young artisans. Today, his school preserves tradition and creates futures.
हामीले यहाँ सुरुमा इन्टरभ्यू लिन्छौँ त्यसपछि एक हप्ता चाहिँ नि सानो र क्यानभासमा हात ट्रेनिङ दिन्छु त्यसको शरीरको बडीहरू अलिकति ट्रेनिङ दिन्छु अनि एक हप्तापछि ओके भनेर ओके या यस भने कोही कोही मानिस नसक्ने चाहिँ नि आधा घन्टामा एक घन्टामा उठेर गइहाल्छ म सक्दैन ढाड दुख्यो किन उसको मन धेरै भएर गयो त्यो सक्दैन ऊ आउँदैन एक दिन पनि आउँदैन मात्रै आँखा चाहिँ हुनु पर्यो हामीले अपाङ्गलाई पनि सिकाएको छ जस्तो बाहिर कान नसुन्ने पनि सिकाएको छ आँखा चाहिँ हुनु पर्यो त्यस्तै हो
As interest in Buddhism grows worldwide, so does the appreciation for our sacred art. Foreigners now come not just to admire but to learn, studying our architecture techniques and meditative Thanka traditions, giving new life to what was once known only within our borders.
बुद्धिज्म नेपाल हो नेपालमा जति छन् विश्व सम्पदामा सूचीमा भएको मठ मन्दिर गुम्बद छ यसैबाट उहाँले पनि सिकेको वास्तवमा यो जुन बौद्ध स्तूपबाट भनौँ लुम्बिनी त्यो जस्तो त उहाँहरूले बनाउन सक्दैन तर यसको चाहिँ एकदमै महत्त्वपूर्ण के छ भगवान या चाहिँ दोस्रो तेस्रो बुद्धको रिलेटिभ यहाँ छ जति चाहिँ अहिले संसारमा यो बुद्धिज्म फैलिँदै जान्छ यो महायान बुद्धिज्म त्यतिकै ठाउँको भ्यालु चाहिँ बढ्दैछ अहिले जस्तो मेरै कुरा मैले 40-45 वर्ष यति ठाउँको महत्त्व थिएन किनभने वर्ल्ड वाइडमा बुद्धिज्ममा थिएन विदेशहरूले जानेकै थिएन उनीहरूले त्यो सुरु आउँदाखेरि सानो तिनी एउटा नेपाल आउँदाखेरि सुपर नेट किन नलैजाऊ भन्ने मात्रै लाइन्थ्यो अहिले चाहिँ उहाँहरू चाहिँ जस्तो अमेरिका युरोप तपाईँको यो सिङ्गापुर ताइवान मलेसिया विभिन्न देशमा चाहिँ अहिले बुद्धिस्ट प्र्याक्टिसनर धेरै उहाँहरू चाहिँ गर्नुहुन्छ त्यसको लागि चाहिँ एकदमै महत्त्वपूर्ण छ त्यस कारणले भविष्यमा यो थाङ्गा चाहिँ छ यसको मार्केट छ
As an artist, entrepreneur, and a master, he feels fulfilled, creating beauty, guiding others, and living with purpose.
मैले संसार जीवन जगतलाई थाहा पायो अहिले हामी सांसारिक जीवन छ सांसारिक जीवनमा कसरी जिउने र अर्कोलाई पनि कसरी जिउन दिने कला थाहा पायो त्यसपछि अब जुन देशमा जन्मे पनि जुन कुलमा जन्मे पनि 100% निश्चित के हो भने मृत्यु छ त्यो त निश्चित हो नि एउटै निश्चित छैन कहिले पनि निश्चित छैन तर त्यो मर्नेमा म कसरी मर्ने भन्ने कला पनि थाहा पाएँ मलाई त धेरै परिवर्तन भएको छ मैले परिवर्तन भयो भने के हुन्छ मैले ठुलो पचेरो चढ्यो ठुलो गाडी त्यस्तो होइन तर मलाई खुसी छ सादा दाल भात खान पाएछ मैले परिवार पाल्नु पाएछ यही थाङ्गाले म जापान घुम्यो युरोप गयो चाइना घुम्यो बुद्धिस्ट कन्ट्री सबै घुमेको छ सबै ठाउँमा मैले घुम्नलाई मलाई पैसाको आपत पनि परेन थाङ्गा सँगसँगै लान्दै बिर्बिङ गर्दै बेच्दै दर्शन बेचेको हो त्यसकारण मलाई त एकदम खुसी छ म त पनि
Pokhara is undoubtedly #1 destination for tourists in Nepal. The valley, blessed with natural beauty, attracts domestic and foreign tourists alike. You must have already visited Pokhara. If you haven't or planning another trip, then these are some of the must-go places in Pokhara. The first attraction in Pokhara is the Feva Lake. Boating in Feva Lake is a ritual for every tourist visiting this paradise. The Tal Barahi temple at the center of the lake adds to the beauty of the place.
A round-trip boat ride in Phewa Lake to and from the temple is a feature of both the lake as well as the temple. Separate boat ride, watching the reflection of Mount Machapuchri on the lake and fishing spice up the Phewa experience. The lakeside along the banks of the Phewa Lake is a popular tourist hub. Many tourists in Pokhara choose Devi's Fall as their second destination in Pokhara. The water from Phewa Lake exits towards Seti River through the Gupteshwar cave from this Devi's Fall. The mighty water stream rushing deep down into the gorge, covered by water vapor, is a magical sight. Pokhara is known as the city of lakes and caves. Many of the lakes and caves have religious importance. This is Gupteshwar cave at Chorepatan area. Inside the cave, the idol of Lord Shiva is a well-known pilgrimage. Further inside the cave, one can see the Devi's Fall. Mahendra Cave is another famous place in Pokhara, and nearby is another well-known Chamere cave. Both the caves can be visited together. Two other well-known tourist destinations in Pokhara are Begnas and Rupa lakes. Fresh fish of Begnas Lake is a sought-after delicacy. Rupa Lake is just round the corner beyond a small hill towards the eastern edge of Begnas Lake. Away from the hustle and bustle of the town, Begnas and Rupa Lakes cannot be taken out of a tourist's itinerary. This is the famous White Monastery on top of the hill above Phewa Lake. This is also a popular destination for domestic as well as foreign tourists. The top-angle bird's-eye view of Pokhara city from the monastery is a sight to behold. The placid Phewa Lake, the tall mountain range, and the birds like paragliding pilots on the background of Sarankot Hill are mesmerizing. The Bindabasini temple in Pokhara is a famous shrine in Nepal. The best route to visit the temple is on the way to Sarankot. Devotees throng the Bindabasini temple, which is atop a small hill with panoramic view of Pokhara city. The Bindabasini temple is famous among the Hindus across the country. Sarankot is a hill station on top of a hill on the northwestern side of Pokhara. A must-go place to see the majestic Mount Machapuchri and Mount Dhaulagiri in the Annapurna range in front of the eyes, and also the Pokhara and Leknath cities on the other side. Sarankot is synonymous to paragliding in Nepal. Taking off from the Sarankot hill, one can enjoy the panoramic mountain range in addition to the bird's eye view of Pokhara city. Ultralight and zip flyer offer a thrill to adventure seekers in Pokhara and are becoming major interests for tourists. Other places, including Swarak in Sangja, have the potential to be world's best place for paragliding. First time in Nepal, Paragliding Accuracy World Cup was held at this place, situated at Mahapur or Virkot municipality of the district. The place drew global attention after the event. Pokhara, famous tourism destination of the country. Majority of locals engaged in tourism industry. The city of lakes and caves, hub of aviation sports. Some major destinations: Lakeside, Feva Lake and Tal Barahi Temple, Begnas and Rupa Lakes, Mahendra Gufa.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected U.S. President Donald Trump's 15-point plan for Gaza, stating that no military pullout will happen until Hamas is genuinely disarmed. Trump's Board of Peace said last month that it had reached an agreement for the complete disarmament of Hamas and other armed groups in Gaza. But Hamas said handing over its heavy weapons was contingent on Israel ending all forms of aggression and withdrawing its forces from Gaza. Israel, meanwhile, has continued to carry out strikes on Gaza since agreeing to an initial ceasefire in the territory last October. Netanyahu, at a cabinet meeting on Sunday, said Israel rejected the 15-point document.
ישראל שוללת את מספר 15 הנקודות. צה"ל לא יבצע נסיגה כלשהי עד פירוק החמאס מנשקו. בנוסף, צה"ל ימשיך לסכל את האיומים נגד כוחותינו ואזרחינו.
Trump last month announced a monumental step toward lasting peace and security after Hamas said it had accepted a disarmament plan for Gaza. It signals another blow for Trump's Gaza peace plan, which was announced in September last year. The plan included the creation of the Board of Peace to oversee the agreement's implementation, as well as the disarmament of Hamas, withdrawal of Israeli troops, and reconstruction of Gaza. China's National Meteorological Center said Typhoon Dolphin is expected to continue into Monday with sustained winds of up to 162 kilometers per hour before weakening as it moves inland. The strength is equivalent to a Category 2 storm. Heavy rainfall is forecast across Zhejiang, Shanghai, northern Fujian, northeastern Jiangxi, Anhui, and Jiangsu. Parts of central and eastern Zhejiang could receive between 250 and 500 millimeters of rainfall. The storm has also disrupted air travel. Nearly 1,400 flights at Shanghai's two main passenger airports were cancelled on Sunday, while Hangzhou Airport reported another 270 cancellations. Officials warned that the storm's westward track could prolong heavy rainfall and increase the risk of flooding and landslides, particularly in mountainous areas and along smaller rivers. China maintained elevated flood emergency responses in Zhejiang, Fujian, Jiangsu, and Anhui, while geological disaster alerts were issued for several areas. In Shanghai, Angshan Port cleared ships from its berths and moved more than 500 small and medium-sized vessels to sheltered areas ahead of the storm. Officials urged residents in high-risk areas to follow evacuation orders and remain alert as Typhoon Dolphin moves inland. Dramatic CCTV footage released by Japan's Kumamoto General Hospital has captured the terrifying moment a medical team braved a powerful 6.8 magnitude earthquake to protect a patient mid-surgery. The surveillance video shows the operating room shaking violently as heavy medical equipment sways and slides across the floor. Rather than seeking cover, doctors and nurses rushed toward the operating table, placing their bodies over the patient to guard against falling objects and steadying the critical machinery. In the footage, one team member is seen securing the emergency exit while others maintain a firm grip on the surgical bed to prevent it from moving during the severe tremors. Hospital administrators confirmed that 4 operations were in progress when the earthquake erupted. Despite the chaos, the surgical personnel maintained sterile conditions and patients' stability throughout the shaking. Outpatient services at the facility have since resumed. The gripping hospital footage offers a glimpse into the broader devastation that hit southwestern Kumamoto Prefecture on July the 28th. The powerful earthquake killed at least 39 people and caused extensive structural damage to thousands of residential homes and public buildings across the region. Humanitarian efforts remain underway across the prefecture. 6,500 displaced residents are still staying in temporary evacuation centers as local officials inspect infrastructure safety, clear the debris, and work to fully restore utility services. Neon-lit streets in Chongqing of China have become a growing attraction for tourists looking to recreate the city's popular cyberpunk motorcycle videos. As night falls, the sound of motorcycle engines fills the streets while dozens of visitors take turns posing on brightly polished motorbikes for personalized videos and photographs. Teams of vendors offer filming services to tourists, providing motorcycles, protective gear, and camera crews to produce short videos against Chongqing's dense urban skyline and colorful neon lights. The trend has been fueled by viral footage of motorcycles waving through the city's elevated roads and illuminated streets, giving Chongqing a distinctive cyberpunk-style image on social media. Among the visitors was 30-year-old Liu Changqing, who traveled from Shanghai specifically to take part in the experience. Liu shared the motorcycle suit was his top priority after arriving in Chongqing, even as he wore a heavy motorcycle jacket in the city's hot and humid weather. The growing demand has created a new tourism-related business for local vendors who are capitalizing on the city's online popularity by offering tourists a chance to become part of the viral motorcycle scenes. A Roman-era shipwreck dating back to between the 2nd and 1st centuries BC has been discovered off the coast of Sicily near Mazzaro del Vallo. Italy's Carabinieri police released footage showing hundreds of ancient amphorae, mainly of the Dress L1 type, scattered across the seabed along with 2 laid anchor stocks. The wreck lies at the depth of around 46 meters and is believed to offer valuable clues about ancient maritime trade in the Mediterranean. Officials said the site was identified during an underwater survey following a report from a private citizen. Archaeologists are now documenting the remains and working to protect the site from looting and damage. Thousands of motorsport fans and vintage car enthusiasts gathered at Brooklands Museum in Surrey, in southwest of London, to mark nearly 100 years since Britain hosted its first Grand Prix. The event commemorated the historic race held on August 7, 1926 at the Brooklands Circuit, widely regarded as one of Britain's most important sites in the history of motor racing. Visitors were able to see a collection of historic racing cars and classic vehicles, while enthusiasts and owners gathered to celebrate Britain's long-standing contribution to international sport. Among the participants was Jolly Ann Harrison, the owner of a 1930s-era or English racing automobiles racing car. He described the event as a celebration of Britain's motorsport heritage and said the country has remained a leader in the sport. The gathering also highlighted the evolution of motor racing from the early days of purpose-built racing cars to the highly advanced technology used in modern Formula One. Organizers said the anniversary event was aimed at preserving the history of British motorsport and connecting younger generation with the country's racing heritage. The centenary-style celebration comes as interest in historic racing and classic cars continues to draw large crowds to events across Britain. An extreme adventure route at Guyver Cliff is attracting thriller seeker with a challenging combination of steep rock descents, canyon crossings, and waterfalls. The route begins at the top of the cliff, where participants descend near vertical rock faces using ropes. The technically demanding sections require experience, balance, and concentration, with some stretches offering little room for secure footing. After reaching the bottom, adventurers continue through a narrow canyon, navigating large rocks and cold water before reaching scenic areas deeper in the valley. The final stage involves climbing through water, completing a demanding circuit that tests participants' strength, endurance, and ability to cope with difficult terrain. Participants describe the route as physically exhausting and highly technical, warning that it should not be attempted without proper training and experience. They said the descent requires complete focus, while another described the route as extremely difficult because of the steep climbs and freezing water. Another participant said the combination of physical effort, depth, and adrenaline makes the experience worthwhile despite pushing the limits of endurance. One of the world's best-known ballet classics, Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake, has been given a new interpretation in Hanoi, with dancers from different generations sharing the stage. The production was staged by the Vietnam Youth Ballet Center and brought together 43 dancers ranging in age from 7 to 40. The performance retained the core story and the spirit of the classic work while introducing a more contemporary approach to choreography, movement, and stage presentation. Program director and artist Dam Han Jiang said the production aimed to present Swan Lake in a brighter and more modern style while allowing dancers of different ages to contribute their own energy and emotion. The cast included experienced performers alongside youth dancers with roles requiring technical precision, physical strength, and strong dramatic expression. Dancers also faced different technical challenges while preparing for the production, including demanding movements and contrasting roles such as the gentle white swan and more intense black swan. The performance highlighted the development of ballet in Vietnam and the growing involvement of younger generations in the art form. Hundreds of colorful kites filled the skies over Colombo as Sri Lanka hosted its International Kite Festival, bringing together more than 1,500 local kite flyers and 80 international enthusiasts from 30 countries. The festival transformed the city's skyline into a display of colorful and creatively designed kites, attracting participants and spectators from across Sri Lanka and abroad. International kite flyers showcased different designs and flying techniques, while local participants joined the event to celebrate the traditional and recreational side of kite flying. Organizers said the festival is aimed at strengthening cultural exchange and promoting Sri Lanka as a vibrant tourism destination. The event also provided an opportunity for international visitors to experience Sri Lankan culture while highlighting the country's potential as a destination for tourism, recreation, and large-scale cultural events.
हिरण्यबाहवे हिरण्यवर्णाय हिरण्यरूपाय हिरण्यपतये अम्बिकापतये उमापतये पशुपतये नमो नमः।
Hello and welcome to our Global Business and Technology Weekly Roundup here on NTV World. I am Siksha Bhattrai. A week of major shifts across the global economy, from tariff battles and energy gains to the next phase of the AI revolution. Here are the top stories. We begin in the United States, where President Donald Trump's latest tariffs are facing a legal challenge. 25 U.S. states have filed a lawsuit against the administration, raising new questions over the future of global trade and international supply chains.
25 U.S. states have filed a lawsuit against President Donald Trump's administration over a new round of tariffs imposed on dozens of countries. The tariffs, ranging from 10 to 12.5%, target trading partners including the United Kingdom, China and the European Union. The U.S. administration says the measures were introduced because those countries have failed to adequately address the use of forced labor in their supply chains. White House spokesperson Kush Desai said Washington is using its lawful authority to protect American businesses from unfair trade practices. He added that countries failing to prevent the import of goods produced with forced labor are placing the unreasonable burden on the United States. The tariffs, which took effect in July, were imposed under Section 301 of the United States Trade Act of 1974, a law used to respond to unfair foreign trade practices.
Meanwhile, India and Uzbekistan are looking to strengthen economic ties. The two countries have set a target of doubling bilateral trade over the next 3 years, with a focus on investment, manufacturing, technology and infrastructure.
India and Uzbekistan have reaffirmed their commitment to expanding economic cooperation, with both sides setting an ambitious target of doubling bilateral trade over the next 3 years. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said India and Uzbekistan are working to significantly deepen their economic partnership with the goal of doubling bilateral trade within the next 3 years. He highlighted opportunities for collaboration in mining, textiles, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, food processing and information technology and digital infrastructure. It is believed the new measures would promote greater co-investment, co-manufacturing and stronger economic integration between the two countries.
Turning to energy markets, Saudi Aramco has reported a sharp increase in second quarter profits. Higher oil and natural gas prices, along with the market volatility linked to geopolitical tensions, helped boost the earnings.
Saudi oil giant Aramco has reported a 44% year-on-year rise in second quarter net profit, driven by higher crude oil and natural gas prices. The increase followed heightened geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, which disrupted energy markets and pushed global oil prices higher. The strong earnings highlights Aramco's ability to benefit from favorable market conditions despite continued global economic uncertainty. Higher energy prices also boosted the company's cash flow, reinforcing its position as one of the world's most profitable energy producers. Analysts say ongoing geopolitical risk could continue to support oil prices in the near term, although global demand and broader economic conditions will remain key factors shaping future earnings. Analysts say ongoing geopolitical risk could continue to support oil prices in the near term, although global demand and broader economic conditions will remain key factors shaping future earnings.
Another major energy company is also reporting strong results. Shell says a second quarter profits more than doubled, supported by higher energy prices and strong trading performance.
Oil giant Shell has reported a sharp rise in second quarter profits, with earnings more than doubling to $9.84 billion, driven by higher energy prices during the conflict involving Iran. The company says disruptions to global oil and liquefied natural gas supplies through the Strait of Hormuz, along with volatile energy markets, boosted both oil prices and its trading business. Shell's first half earnings have surged by 70%, despite a decline in overall oil and gas production and damage to some of its operations in Qatar. The company says its strong trading performance and new production in Brazil helped offset losses from disrupted gas output.
Meanwhile, BP is making a major strategic move. The company plans to sell its North Sea oil and gas business ending decades of production in the region as it reshapes its global operations.
BP has said it is putting its North Sea business up for sale in a move that would end 60 years of production in the region by the oil giant. The decision follows a review of BP's operations as it seeks to slim down the group. Its North Sea business have 5 production hubs, 2 in the central North Sea and 3 west of Shetland, and employs about 1,100 people. Earlier this week, Prime Minister Andy Burnham said he told US President Donald Trump he would take a pragmatic approach to the issue of North Sea oil and gas. Trump, some trade unions, industry figures, and some Labour MPs all back increased drilling in the North Sea.
The artificial intelligence boom is creating new challenges for the technology sector. Rising demand for advanced chips is pushing up component prices, affecting electronics manufacturers and consumers around the world.
Artificial intelligence's rapid expansion is driving up demand for key consumer electronics components, creating supply shortages across global markets. The resulting increase in component prices is already feeding through to higher retail costs for products such as laptops and smartphones. It has been warned that automakers could be the next sector to face rising costs as competition for advanced chips intensifies. The price pressures have become an unintended consequence of the global AI investment boom, affecting manufacturers and consumers alike. The supply squeeze is expected to continue in the coming months, keeping upward pressure on electronics prices and potentially disrupting production across multiple industries.
Investment in AI infrastructure is also accelerating. Chinese data center supplier Chongqing InnoLight has completed Hong Kong's biggest IPO in 7 years, highlighting strong investor interest in AI-related businesses.
Chinese data center supplier Zhongxi InnoLight has raised $6.8 billion in Hong Kong's biggest initial public offering in 7 years, despite its shares briefly falling 10% on their trading debut. The company, a major manufacturer of optical transceivers used in AI data centers, supplies technology to firms including Google, Nvidia, and Huawei, and later recovered most of its early losses to close down just 2%.
And at the same time, concerns over AI safety continue to grow. OpenAI has expanded its investigation into a security incident involving autonomous AI agents, renewing debate over how rapidly developing AI systems should be managed.
OpenAI has uncovered additional cases of autonomous AI agents escaping their intended testing environments as it broadens its investigation into a recent hacking incident involving tech platform Hugging Face. The newly identified incidents were limited in scope, and there is no indication that any AI agent left OpenAI's internal network. The company says it is reviewing broader activity across its AI models as part of the ongoing investigation into the security breach. The findings are expected to intensify global discussions over AI safety and regulation as governments and industry leaders weigh the risk of increasingly autonomous artificial intelligence systems.
Technology competition between the United States and China is intensifying. Washington has introduced new restrictions on advanced robots and power equipment, citing national security and cybersecurity concerns.
The United States has announced new restrictions on imports of certain foreign-made advanced robots and solar power equipment, citing national security and cybersecurity concerns. The U.S. Federal Communications Commission said the measures target new models of network-connected robots, including humanoid and quadruped systems, as well as power inverters used to connect solar projects to the electricity grid. Washington says the technology could create risks of cyber attacks, espionage, and supply chain vulnerabilities, particularly involving Chinese manufacturers as part of efforts to reduce dependence on foreign technology. China has criticized the move, accusing the United States of using national security concerns to suppress Chinese companies and limit their global competitiveness. Previously approved products will not be affected, while new devices may undergo security reviews before receiving approval for use in the U.S. market.
In another major technology development, U.S. regulators have approved IonQ's acquisition of semiconductor manufacturer Skywater Technology. The deal is expected to strengthen America's position in quantum computing and advanced chip manufacturing.
U.S. Federal Trade Commission has approved quantum computing company Ionix's $1.8 billion acquisition of semiconductor manufacturer SkyWater Technology. The decision came after FTC leaders failed to agree on whether the merger should include conditions to protect competition. Chairman Andrew Ferguson has proposed requiring Ionix to guarantee fair access to SkyWater's manufacturing services for rival quantum computing companies. However, Commissioner Mark Meadow argued the deal would not reduce competition. With no agreement on conditions, the FTC cleared the acquisition, allowing the merger to move forward. SkyWater is the largest US-based semiconductor foundry, and the deal is expected to strengthen America's growing quantum computing and advanced chip manufacturing industry.
Consumers are also feeling the impact of rising technology cost. Microsoft has increased Xbox prices worldwide, blaming higher memory and storage chips cost.
Microsoft has increased the price of Xbox consoles worldwide, citing cost of rising memory and storage chips. Its premium series console with a disk drive will now cost £670 when it previously retailed for £500. Meanwhile, a baseline Xbox Series S console now costs £430, a roughly 43% increase on its previous £300 price tag. It is among a host of tech companies to have told consumers that spiraling component costs mean they must charge more, with rival Sony hiking PlayStation 5 prices by £90 in March. Microsoft said in June it had hoped that another price hike would not be necessary, but blamed the rising cost of console storage and memory for needing to raise prices on consumers.
The global electric vehicle race continues. Chinese automaker BYD has reported another month of strong sales growth, with overseas exports helping drive its expansion.
Chinese electric vehicle giant BYD has reported its third consecutive month of rising global sales, driven by strong demand in overseas markets. The company sold more than 419,000 vehicles worldwide in July, an increase of nearly 22% compared with the same month last year. International sales were the standout performer, with overseas shipments of passenger vehicles and pickup trucks soaring more than 124% year-on-year to almost 180,000 units. The strong export growth has helped offset softer demand in China's domestic market, reinforcing BYD's position as one of the world's fastest-growing electric vehicle manufacturers as it continues to expand its global presence.
And as countries compete for future technologies, securing critical minerals has become a major priority. South Korea and Chile are expanding cooperation on lithium, copper, and other resources essential for electric vehicles and semiconductor production.
South Korea and Chile have pledged to deepen economic cooperation, with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung highlighting opportunities in critical minerals, infrastructure, public safety, and the defense industry during a business roundtable in Santiago. The event brought together executives from more than 20 South Korean and Chilean companies to explore new investment and commercial partnerships. President Lee said Chile's abundant critical mineral resources and South Korea's advanced manufacturing capabilities position the two countries as complementary economic partners. Antonio Costa, the Chilean president, said Chile's copper and lithium exports play a key role in global electric vehicle and semiconductor supply chains, with trade between the two countries making South Korea Chile's sixth largest trading partner.
And that's the week in global business and technology. Markets are shifting, industries are transforming, and the race for innovation continues. We'll keep tracking the stories driving the world economy. I am Siksha Bhattrai. See you next week.
जानकी मन्दिर महर्षि जनकको पुण्यभूमि, माता जानकीको पवित्र जन्मस्थल। देश विदेशमा परिचित जनकपुर धाम मध्य प्रदेशको मात्र नभई अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय स्तरमै प्रख्यात पवित्र भूमि। सबैको पूजनीय ठाउँ जनकपुर धाम। महेन्द्र राजमार्गको ढल्केबरबाट करिब 21 किलोमिटर दक्षिण लागेपछि शहीद गेट हुँदै रामानन्द चोक पुग्न सकिन्छ। जनकपुरको ठूलो प्रवेशद्वार रामानन्द प्रवेशद्वार। 4वटा ठूलो पिलरमा बनाइएको रामानन्द प्रवेशद्वारको माथि स्वामी रामानन्दको प्रतिमा छ। यो प्रवेशद्वारलाई जनकपुरवासीले जनकपुरको गौरव समेत मान्ने गरेका छन्। रामानन्द चोकबाट करिब 1 किलोमिटर पूर्व गएपछि मिथिलाञ्चलवासीको सांस्कृतिक धरोहर जानकी मन्दिर पुग्न सकिन्छ। मध्य प्रदेशको राजधानी जनकपुरमा अवस्थित यो मन्दिर नेपालमा भएका मन्दिरहरूमध्ये क्षेत्रफलका आधारमा सबैभन्दा ठूलो मन्दिर हो। मन्दिर निर्माणको 125 वर्ष जति मात्र भए पनि यसमा स्थापित राम जानकीको प्रतिमा भने झण्डै 700 वर्ष पुरानो भएको संस्कृतिविदहरूको भनाइ छ।
20औं शताब्दीको प्रारम्भमा भनौं त्यति बेला एकजना मध्य प्रदेशकै ओर्छा स्टेट छ, त्यहाँ त्यसको राजधानी टिकमगढ छ। त्यहाँकी रानीले आएर अहिलेको जानकी मन्दिरको जुन ढाँचा अहिले देखिएको छ, जो देशमा सबैभन्दा ठुलो ढाँचा मन्दिरको रूपमा एउटा छ, त्यो राजस्थानी शैली र मुगल शैली दुईटीको मिश्रित रूपमा यहाँ बनाइदिएको हो त्यो मन्दिर। त्यसपछि यहाँ विकास भएको हो।
विक्रम सम्वत 1968 सालमा निर्माण सम्पन्न भएको यो मन्दिर धार्मिक र सांस्कृतिक हिसाबले सम्पन्न मैथिली सभ्यताको धरोहर हो। पवित्र हिन्दू धर्मस्थलको रूपमा चिनिने जानकी मन्दिर मुगल शैलीमा निर्माण गरिएको छ। पाँच 500 वर्ष पुरानो इतिहास बोकेको यो मन्दिर 4860 वर्ग फिटमा फैलिएको छ भने 50 फिट अग्लो रहेको छ। नेपालको ख्याति प्राप्त यो मन्दिरलाई कलाको उत्कृष्ट नमुना मान्न सकिन्छ। प्राचीन मिथिलाको राजधानी जनकपुरमा अवस्थित जानकी मन्दिर विश्वभरका हिन्दूहरूको आस्थाको केन्द्रबिन्दु हो। यो मन्दिर भारत मध्य प्रदेश स्थित टिकमगढकी राजकुमारी वृषभानुकुमारीले 9 लाख चाँदीका असर्फी खर्च गरेर निर्माण गरिएको हो भन्ने किम्वदन्ती छ। त्यसैले यो मन्दिरलाई 9 लाखा मन्दिर पनि भन्ने गरिन्छ।
खर्चमा 9 लाख रुपियाँ खर्च भएको थियो। त्यो बेलाको शासनमा 1910 तिरको 9 लाख भन्दाखेरि त अहिले त अर्बौं खर्बौंमा जान्छ। अनि त्यो खर्च भएको हुनाले यसलाई 9 लाख भनिएको हो कि भन्ने बुझिन्छ।
प्राचीन मिथिला हिन्दू तथा मुस्लिम कलाको समुचित समायोजनबाट निर्मित जानकी मन्दिर कलाकृतिले समेत भरिपूर्ण ठाउँ हो। सीताको जन्मभूमि र राम सीताको विवाह भएको पुण्यभूमि भएकाले पनि यो ठाउँ सबैको आस्थाको केन्द्र बनेको छ।
सीतामढ़ी से हम लोग जनकपुर धाम पर आए हैं। माँ जानकी का यह पालन स्थल है, जन्म स्थल पुनौरा भूमि हुआ। वहाँ से राजा जनक जी पुनौरा धाम से माँ जानकी को यहाँ अपने दरबार में अपना यहाँ उनका साम्राज्य था, उस साम्राज्य में अपना यहाँ उनका लालन पालन हुआ है और काफ़ी धार्मिक आस्था है। जगत जननी माँ सीता का यह लालन पालन का स्थल है और हम लोग इसी आस्था से माँ जानकी के आशीर्वाद लेने हेतु यहाँ पर पहुँचे हुए।
धार्मिक तथा सांस्कृतिक रूपमा सम्पन्न यो मन्दिर मिथिलाञ्चलवासीको सांस्कृतिक धरोहरको रूपमा रहेको छ। मैथिली सभ्यताको प्रतीकको रूपमा रहेको यो मन्दिरमा श्रद्धा एवं निष्ठापूर्वक पूजाआजा गरे मनको शान्ति मिल्नुका साथै मनोकामना पूरा हुने जनविश्वास छ।
यहाँ पे हम जानते हैं कि सीता माता का जन्म स्थान है यहाँ पे, तो हम यहाँ हम राम और कृष्णा दोनों एक मानते हैं। तो हम राम जी के बारे में और जानकी के बारे में ज़्यादा जानना चाहते हैं, जानकी माता के बारे में, इसीलिए यहाँ आए, उनका जन्म स्थान देखना चाहते हैं।
यहाँ आएपछि त भित्री आत्मादेखि असाध्य खुसी लाग्छ क्या। जति जे हाम्रो मनभित्र हुन्छ नि, बाहिर कतै हुँदाखेरि हामीभित्र जुन मनमा चलिरहेको हुन्छ नि, यहाँ आएपछि त बेग्लै महसुस भइरहेको हुन्छ क्या, त्यस्तो हुन्छ।
ऐतिहासिक, धार्मिक तथा पर्यटकीय क्षेत्रको रूपमा रहेको यो मन्दिरभित्र पर्यटकलाई लोभ्याउने कलाकृति र सौन्दर्यताकै कारण यहाँ देश विदेशबाट हजारौंको संख्यामा दर्शनार्थीहरूको भीड लाग्ने गर्दछ। यहाँको कला कौशलताले सजी सजाऊ मन्दिरसँगै वरिपरि रहेको हरियाली वातावरणले पर्यटकहरूलाई थप आकर्षित गर्नुका साथै ऊर्जा समेत प्रदान गर्ने गर्दछ।
बहुत दिनों की इच्छा थी कि मैं माता के स्थान पे आऊं, है ना, और आने का मुझे सौभाग्य हुआ और मुझे बहुत ही दिल से खुशी हो रही है कि मुझे इनका दर्शन हुआ। और जिस तरह से यहाँ पे संरक्षण किया गया है, इससे मुझे बहुत ही संतुष्टि हो रही है और सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और मैं भगवान का आभार प्रकट करती हूँ कि मुझे दर्शन का सौभाग्य मिला।
जानकी मन्दिर छेउमा रहेको भगवान सीतारामको विवाह मण्डप स्थल, जानकी मन्दिरको उत्तरतर्फ रहेको राम जानकी विवाह मण्डप जनकपुर धामको अर्को धार्मिक एवं दर्शनीय स्थल हो। श्री राम जानकी विवाह मण्डपको चारैतिर पारदर्शी सिसा लगाइएकाले वरिपरि रहेका सम्पूर्ण देवताहरूको दर्शन बाहिरबाटै गर्न सकिन्छ। सीतारामका भव्य मूर्तिहरू मध्यभागमा देवीका मूर्तिहरू राखिएका छन्। गर्भ मण्डपभित्र कलात्मक स्तम्भहरू छन्। यी स्तम्भहरूमा विभिन्न देवी देवताहरूका 4-4 वटाका दरले मूर्तिहरू जोडेर राखिएका छन्। मण्डपको माथि शिरमा रहेको गजुरले यसको रौनकतालाई अझै बढाएको छ। यहाँ विवाह पञ्चमीमा भारत अयोध्याबाट लाखौं मानिसहरू जन्ती बनेर आउने गर्दछन्। जानकी मन्दिर, राम मन्दिर लगायतका मठ मन्दिरहरूबाट बाजागाजा सहित निस्किने झाँकी नगरको विभिन्न भागको परिक्रमा गर्दै ऐतिहासिक रङ्गभूमि 12 बिघा मैदानमा पुगी राम र जानकीको स्वयंवर हुने गर्दछ। विवाह पञ्चमीको अवसरमा जानकी मन्दिर, राम मन्दिर, जनक मन्दिर, विवाह मण्डप, शिव मन्दिर लगायतका मठ मन्दिरहरूमा बिहानैदेखि साधु सन्त, भक्तजन र दर्शनार्थीहरूको घुइँचो लाग्ने गर्दछ। विवाह पञ्चमी मेला भर्न नेपालका विभिन्न स्थानका साथै भारतबाट समेत भक्तजनहरू जनकपुर धाम आउने गर्दछन्।
विवाह पञ्चमी यहाँको सबभन्दा ठुलो महत्त्वपूर्ण पर्व हो। उसमा चाहिँ बढी भिड हुन्छ, सबैतिरबाट मान्छे आउँछ, अयोध्याबाट जयन्ती आउँछ, लोकल मान्छेको पनि भिड हुन्छ। विवाह पञ्चमी ठुलो मेला हुन्छ यहाँको। हुन त सबै महिनामा छ, अब यो साउनमा यो असारको पूर्णिमा गुरु पूजा हुन्छ, उसमा पनि लाग्छ। श्रावणमा झुला हुन्छ नि, हरियाली तीज भन्छ, झुल्ने प्रक्रिया छ, त्यो पनि हुन्छ। भदौमा चाहिँ जन्माष्टमी हुन्छ, यस्तै आश्विनमा दुर्गा पूजा, कार्तिकमा अन्नकुट दिवालीहरू हुन्छ। अनि फेरि मङ्सिरमा विवाह पञ्चमी हुन्छ, यसो फाल्गुनमा परिक्रमा हुन्छ 15 दिनको, चैतमा रामनवमी हुन्छ, वैशाखमा जानकी नवमी हुन्छ। सबै महिनामा केही न केही पर्व भइरहन्छ।
जनकपुर धामको पौराणिकतालाई दर्शाउने मणिमण्डप, भगवान राम र माता सीताको विवाह भएको स्थलको रूपमा ख्याति प्राप्त मणिमण्डप पुरातात्विक दृष्टिले अति नै प्राचीन मानिन्छ। यो मण्डपले मिथिला सभ्यताको प्राचीनतालाई समेत दर्शाउँदछ।
यो तपाईको त्रेता युगमा जुन समयमा भगवान रामको बिहे भएको थियो नि, त्यो बेलाको यो मण्डप हो। या यो भूमि छ नि, जुन माटो छ नि, हाम्रो पूर्वजले यो माटोलाई नै पूजा गरेको थियो पहिला। अहिले तपाईको त्यो बाँसको झोपडी बनाएर पूजा गर्दै आइरहेको थियो। त्यसपछि यो तपाईको 2007 मा इन्डियाको डेटमा जयपुरको अनुसार यो बनाएको।
जनकपुरबाट करिब 17 किलोमिटर उत्तरमा धनुषा धाम रहेको छ। राजा जनकले आफ्नी छोरी सीताका लागि आयोजना गरेको स्वयंवरमा भगवान रामले तोडेको शिवजीको धनुषको 3 टुक्रा मध्ये 1 टुक्रा यही झरेको थियो भन्ने मान्यता छ। यही स्थानमा अहिले धनुष मन्दिर समेत रहेको छ। जानकी मन्दिर दर्शन गर्ने जो कोही धनुषा धाम पुग्ने गर्दछन्। जानकी मन्दिर पुग्ने भक्तजनहरूले धनुषा धामको दर्शन नगरे दर्शन पूरा नहुने महन्तहरू बताउनुहुन्छ।
सीता र रामजीको बीचमा एउटा जुन वैवाहिक बन्धन भएछ, त्यसको प्रतीक रूपमा त्यो धनुष हो। त्यो स्वयं भगवानको हातबाट भाँचिएको र स्वयं परशुराम पनि एउटा भगवानको अवतारले चाहिँ त्यो धनुष, शिवजीको धनुष जनकले दिएको हुनाले त्यसको महात्म्य हेर्ने हो भने रामेश्वरम चाहिँ पछि स्थापना गर्नुभएछ भगवान रामले। त्यो धनुष चाहिँ आफ्नो हातबाट त्योभन्दा पहिला स्थापना गर्नुभएको हुनाले त्यो पनि एउटा दर्शनको ठुलो महत्त्वपूर्ण स्थान हो धनुषा धाम। र त्यो राम र सीताको बीचको एउटा प्रतीक रूपमा त्यो धनुष मानिन्छ। र जनकपुर आउने दर्शनार्थीलाई यदि धनुषको दर्शन भएन भने पूर्ण दर्शन हुँदैन, अधुरो दर्शन हुन्छ।
त्रेताकालीन इतिहास बोकेको जनकपुरको धनुष सागर, 3 टुक्रा भएको शिवजीको धनुष मध्ये 1 टुक्रा पातालमा गएको थियो भन्ने किंवदन्ती अनुसार सोही स्थानमा पोखरीको आकार लिएको मान्यता छ। आज सोही स्थानलाई धनुष सागरको नामले चिन्ने गरिन्छ। जानकी मन्दिरको छेवैमा रहेको राम मन्दिर, जानकी मन्दिर पुग्ने जो कोही राम मन्दिर पुग्ने गर्दछन्। जानकी मन्दिरको निर्माणभन्दा पहिले नै निर्मित यो मन्दिरको निर्माण प्यागोडा शैलीमा गरिएको छ। राम मन्दिरलाई झट्ट हेर्दा पशुपतिनाथ मन्दिरको झल्को आउँछ। राम मन्दिरमा पञ्चायन मूर्ति, लक्ष्मी नारायण, विष्णु अवतारको मूर्ति, अन्य देवी देवताको नित्य पूजा अर्चना गर्ने गर्दछ। मन्दिरमा रहेका ती मूर्तिहरू चतुर्भुज गिरीले फेला पारेका थिए। तिनै सन्तले पछि मन्दिरमै रहेको बरको रुखमुनि मूर्तिहरू राखेर पूजा सुरु गरेका थिए भन्ने भनाइ छ।
यहाँ सुरकिशोर दास आएका थिए, उनकै समकालीन एउटा अर्को सन्यासी चतुर्भुज गिरी पनि यहाँ आएका थिए। भनिन्छ भने जोशी मठका उनी त्यहाँका सन्यासी थिए, शङ्कराचार्यका शिष्य थिए भने। अनि यहाँ उनी पनि मिथिला खोज्दै जनकपुर आएका थिए। यहाँ बस्दाखेरि एउटा भनाइ के छ भने उनी यहाँ आउँदाखेरि अहिले जहाँ राम मन्दिर छ त्यो राम मन्दिरकै ठाउँमा एउटा रुखमुनि बसेका थिए। उनीलाई स्वप्न भयो अरे, त्यो भनाइ छ एउटा किंवदन्ती जस्तो। उनले त्यहाँ खन्दाखेरि त्यहाँबाट मूर्तिहरू फेला पारे, लक्ष्मीनारायणका मूर्तिहरू अहिले पनि त्यहाँ लक्ष्मीनारायणका मूर्तिहरू त्यहाँ छ त्यहाँ, र अहिले राम मन्दिरका भएका मूर्तिहरू पनि छन्। तुलना गर्न त्यसपछि त्यहाँ एउटा मठ उनले पनि बनाएका थिए। त्यहाँ सुरुमा ऊ थियो। भनिन्छ अहिले जुन देखिन्छ नि त्यो ऐतिहासिक तथ्यहरूले के भन्छन् भने यो चौथो ढाँचा हो जो अहिले देखिएको हो। त्यहाँ सुरुमा एउटा मठ जस्तो रह्यो होला, पछि त्यसलाई मकवानी राजाहरूले पनि ढाँचा त्यहाँ खडा गरिदिए त्यहाँ मन्दिरहरू। त्यो तुलना गर्न भनेपछि जानकी मन्दिर अलि भारतीय उसँग बढी नजिक देखिन्थ्यो भनेपछि राम मन्दिरका जुन सन्यासीहरू त्यहाँ अहिले पनि त्यहाँ गिरी नै हुन्छ। त्यहाँ दुईवटा फरक के छ भने यो जानकी मन्दिर वैष्णवी मठ हो, रामानन्दीहरूको मठ हो, अनि त्यो सन्यासीहरूको मठ हो।
जनकपुर धामका पुराना मन्दिरहरूमध्ये लक्ष्मण मन्दिर पनि एउटा हो। यो मन्दिर जानकी मन्दिर अगाडिको विशाल प्राङ्गणको उत्तर पूर्वमा पर्दछ। यस मन्दिरमा मुख्य रूपमा भगवान सीताराम, लक्ष्मण र लवकुशका धातुका मूर्तिहरू राखेर पूजा आजा गरिन्छ। राजा जनककै नामले प्रख्यात नगरी जनकपुर धाममा रहेको जनक मन्दिर प्राचीनताको अर्को नमुना हो। यो मन्दिर धनुष सागरको उत्तर पश्चिम डिलमा अवस्थित छ। गंगा सागरको डिलमा शिव मन्दिर रहेको छ। शिवरात्रि लगायतका पर्वहरूमा मन्दिरमा ठूलै संख्यामा दर्शनार्थीहरूको घुइँचो लाग्ने गर्दछ। गंगा सागरको उत्तर पश्चिम तथा शिवचोकमा रहेको यो मन्दिरको निर्माण 2038 सालमा गरिएको हो। यो मन्दिरको निर्माण भने शिखर शैलीमा गरिएको छ। जानकी मन्दिरमा बिहान 7 बजे र बेलुका 8 बजे आरती हुने गर्दछ। संगीतमय यो आरती हेर्नका लागि श्रद्धालुहरूको भिड नै लाग्ने गर्दछ। बिहानको पूजापाठ होस् वा दिउँसोको रामायण पाठ अथवा भजन कीर्तनदेखि साँझको आरतीसम्म यहाँ भक्तजनहरूको भिड लाग्ने गर्दछ। यसले जानकी मन्दिर प्रतिको आस्था र विश्वासलाई समेत झल्काउने गर्दछ।
आस्था ठुलो छ यो क्षेत्रमा। जनकपुरको विकासको क्रममा हेर्ने भने यो दुईटा मन्दिर सम्भवतः नभएको भए जनकपुर मेटिन्थ्यो अथवा स्थापित हुने थिएन। किनभने धेरै प्राचीन पश्चिमी विद्वानहरू जसले अनुसन्धान गरेका छ जनकपुर बारेमा, उनीहरू पनि भनाइ के छ भने जनकपुर धेरैचोटि बसिसकेका छ, धेरैचोटि उजाड भइसकेका छ, यसको इतिहास त्यही भन्छ। तर यो दुईटा मन्दिरले गर्दाखेरि यहाँ के भयो भने विभिन्न कुटीहरूको स्थापना पनि भयो, जाति कुटीहरूको स्थापना भयो। विभिन्न जातले आफ्नो आफ्नो कुटीहरूको स्थापना गरे, गाउँ घरमा बसेका थियो, तर कुटीको स्थापना जनकपुरमा गरे, किनभने जनकपुरमा आएर पुण्य कमाउनु छ।
दिउँसो 12 बजेदेखि 4 बजेसम्म भने गर्भगृहको ढोका बन्द रहन्छ। गर्भगृह पछाडि सांस्कृतिक संग्रहालय रहेको छ। यो संग्रहालयले यहाँ आउने जो कोहीको मन लोभ्याउने गर्दछ। यो संग्रहालयले हलेश्वरी महायज्ञ भएर सीता फेला परेदेखि सीतारामको विवाह भएसम्मको झझल्को दिलाउने गर्दछ। जानकी मन्दिरमा हुने महन्तको कुनै पनि व्यक्तिगत व्यवहार, कुल, परिवार नहुने यो वैष्णव धर्मको परम्पराले सञ्चालन भइरहेको छ। वैराग्य परम्पराले चल्ने यो मन्दिरको हालको पुजारी महन्त राम तपेश्वर दास हुनुहुन्छ।
महन्तको 2, 4, 10, 20 टा चेला हुन्छ। त्यो चेला मध्ये चाहिँ यहाँको नगर समाज, यहाँको महन्तजी होइन, जसलाई लायक सम्झिन्छ उसलाई चाहिँ बनाउँछ। मरेपछि उसलाई दाह क्रिया गर्छ। त्यसपछि यहाँको समाज उसैलाई महन्त बनाइदिन्छ अनि गुड्स स्थान उसैलाई समर्थन दिइदिन्छ। यही परम्परा छ अहिलेसम्म।
छुटगुठीको रूपमा रहेको यो ऐतिहासिक मन्दिर भेटीबाट सञ्चालन हुने गर्दछ। छुटगुठी भएकै कारणले 3 तहकै सरकारसँगैका कुनै पनि गुठी संस्थानले यसमा लगानी गरेको छैन। 12 महिनामा 12 वटा पर्व, विवाह पञ्चमी, सार्वजनिक विवाह हुनुका साथै जानकी मन्दिरको हातभित्र दैनिक जसो अखण्ड रामायण पाठ, अखण्ड कीर्तन लगायतका कार्यक्रम हुने यस मन्दिरको व्यवस्थापन समेत दान दातव्यबाट सञ्चालन भइरहेको छ।
यो जानकी मन्दिर चाहिँ छुटगुठी अन्तर्गत पर्छ। अनि गुठी स्थान र हाम्रो जुन लाल मोहर छ नि त्यसमा लेखेको छ यसको जुन सम्पत्ति छ, यसको जुन साधन स्रोत छ, यसैबाट चाहिँ यसलाई सञ्चालन गर्ने भएन भन्ने महन्जी स्वयं यसको व्यवस्था गर्ने।
ऐतिहासिक रूपले महत्त्वपूर्ण सांस्कृतिक धरोहर मानिने जानकी मन्दिर धार्मिक हिसाबले नेपाल र भारत दुवै देशका हिन्दू धर्मावलम्बीहरूको सेतु पनि हो। मध्य प्रदेश सरकारले हिन्दू धर्मावलम्बीहरूको पवित्र र प्रख्यात तीर्थस्थल जानकी मन्दिरलाई विश्व सम्पदा सूचीमा सूचीकृत गर्नका लागि आफ्नो 2081-82 को नीति तथा कार्यक्रममा समावेश समेत गरिसकेको छ। धार्मिक पर्यटनमा अथाह सम्भावना बोकेको जानकी मन्दिर लगायतका ऐतिहासिक धरोहरहरूले हाम्रो संस्कृति र परिचय झल्काउँदछ।
Annapurna Circuit Trek features in world's 10 best destinations and adventures. The trekking circuit is the choice of many trekkers as it offers both adventure along with mesmerizing view of mountain ranges. Arguably the best trekking circuit in the world, travelers get up close with dozens of mountains including the Annapurna, Dhaulagiri, Nilgiri. Annapurna Circuit ideally is a 14-day trek. The circuit passes through Lamjung, Manang, Mustang and Myagdi district, including Thorangla Pass as the highest point. Places including Thampus, Ghandruk and Poon Hill are part of this trekking circuit. The revered Muktinath shrine is also part of the circuit. Only foreigners were seen in this circuit few years back, but now domestic tourists are also flocking the area. If you are looking for a lifetime trekking experience, then pack your bags for Annapurna trekking circuit. Mardi Base Camp Trek, also part of the Annapurna circuit, is another alternative route for trekkers who can't afford time. Trekkers can be up close with mountains including the Annapurna Range, Dhaulagiri, Machapuchre and Manasalu in this circuit. This 7-day circuit is attracting many trekkers for obvious reasons.
Nepal boosts LPG imports from India. Market inspections intensified to curb shortages. Nepal marks World Indigenous Peoples Day. Communities call for greater rights and cultural protection. Nepal's ruling RSP launches Minister-Citizen Dialogue. Congress vows to hold government accountable. Oman and Iran advance Hormuz talks. Strait reopening still subject to conditions. Typhoon Dolphin makes landfall in China. Several flights cancelled. And FIFA defends Infantino amid growing controversy. Governing body rejects claims as president faces pressure. Good evening, I'm Bijata Bhandari and you're watching NTV World News Hour, coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in detail. Nepal has begun diplomatic efforts with India to increase liquefied petroleum gas or LPG imports for 3 months to prevent shortages during upcoming major festivals. Nepal Oil Corporation says gas imports have increased with 39,774 metric tons imported during the first 22 days of this fiscal year, which falls roughly in July and August. At the current rate, imports could reach about 55,000 metric tons for the month, compared with 44,318 metric tons by mid-August last year. Officials say the gas shortage is gradually easing after the government resumed sales of full cylinders, following several months when half-filled cylinders were supplied. Nepal consumes around 46,000 metric tons of LPG each month, and industry officials are urging consumers not to stockpile gas unnecessarily as supply conditions improve. We will bring you a detailed report on this in our segment Issue of the Day later in the bulletin. World Indigenous Peoples Day was observed globally today to raise awareness of the rights, identities, cultures and challenges of indigenous communities. According to the United Nations, around 476 million indigenous people live in 90 countries, accounting for less than 6% of the global population, while making up at least 15% of the world's poorest people. Indigenous communities have preserved distinct cultural traditions, traditional knowledge, and close relationships with nature, while continuing to seek recognition of their rights to ancestral lands, territories, and natural resources. The day calls on the governments and the international community to protect indigenous rights, languages, and cultures, and ensure their meaningful participation in decision-making. We will bring you an in-depth report on this in our segment Cover Story of the Day later in the bulletin. Now up next, Nepal's ruling Rashtriya Swatantra Party RSP has decided to require ministers from the party to attend its central office at least once a month for direct engagement with citizens and party members. The party says it will launch a program called Citizens Policy and Leadership from the Nepali month of Bhadra, roughly around mid-August, aimed at making governance more responsive, transparent, and results-oriented. Under the first phase, ministers will spend an hour meeting members of the public to hear their complaints, concerns, expectations, and suggestions, with the feedback intended to reach government policy and implementation levels. The party says the initiative will also seek to make ministers more directly accountable, improve coordination between citizens, lawmakers, and government representatives, and help shape its position on national policies and legislation. Now up next, Nepali Congress President Gagan Kumar Thapa has said that the party, as Nepal's main opposition, has a responsibility to question the government and hold it accountable. Addressing the party's Central Committee meeting, Thapa defended the legality of the Special General Convention, saying it was conducted in accordance with the party statute and had been recognized by the Election Commission. Party President Thapa said the party was prepared to hold a fair general convention that includes the faction led by former President Sher Bahadur Deuba, while vowing not to be intimidated by political differences.
सबै साथीहरुलाई समेटेर अधिवेशनमा लिएर जाने हो यो जिम्मेवारी हो यो जिम्मेवारी पूरा गर्ने कुरामा तलमाथि गर्ने कुरा छैन यो कुरा गर्ने कुरामा संवाद गरिरहेको सब संवाद गर्छ तर एउटा कुरा चाहिँ म ख्याल गरिदिन सबैलाई आग्रह गर्न चाहन्छु तर्साएर चाहिँ म तर्सिन्न दबाएर पनि म दबिन्न फकाएर पनि फकिन्न मलाई विधान थाहा छ विधानको सीमा थाहा छ विधानको सीमाभित्र म बस्नुपर्छ विधानको सीमाभित्र बस्छु.
Thapa also said growing public frustration in Nepal reflects not only dissatisfaction with individual political parties, but increasing anger toward the political system as a whole. Next, Oman has said positive talks have been taking place with Iran over an agreement to secure a shipping route through the Strait of Hormuz, as Tehran warned that any deal would not see an immediate reopening of the vital waterway. Both sides suggested on Saturday that discussions were progressing, but a timeline on any deal being finalized remained unclear. Oman's foreign ministry warned against attacks on shipping that could hamper that. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said talks were in their final stages, but the reopening of the strait remained subject to other conditions. Tehran has effectively blockaded the waterway, through which around a fifth of the world's oil and natural gas usually flows, since the US and Israel began attacking it in February. Typhoon Dolphin made landfall on China's east coast on Sunday, bringing powerful winds and heavy rain as authorities warned of flooding and landslides. Nearly 1,400 flights at Shanghai's two main passenger airports were cancelled on Sunday, according to state broadcaster CCTV. Singapore Airlines also cancelled 8 flights to and from Shanghai and retimed 10 flights scheduled for Monday and Tuesday. Hangzhou Airport in nearby Zhejiang province cancelled about 270 inbound and outbound flights, according to CCTV. The storm is expected to continue through Monday with sustained winds of up to 162 kilometers per hour before weakening inland, according to China's National Meteorological Center. Authorities moved offshore workers to safety, ordered vessels back to port, and increased inspections of reservoirs, mountain streams, construction sites, and other high-risk areas. FIFA has condemned a concerted and ongoing effort by some to undermine the World Games governing body and its president Gianni Infantino as the controversy over his now shelved private investment plan rumbles on. Infantino has faced calls to resign and was also subject to allegations from a British newspaper on Friday that he paid off a lover while at European governing body UEFA. FIFA in statement has said recent reporting has included unsubstantiated assertions and demonstrably false claims concerning FIFA and its president. According to the Telegraph newspaper, the Italian-Swiss lawyer previously used his influence to secure a promotion for a UEFA employee with whom he was in an intimate relationship with. The newspaper added, without revealing its sources, that the same employee received a 6-figure sum upon her departure, in addition to the payment of tuition fees for a business school amounting to around $60,700. Infantino, who is standing for re-election next March, has been embroiled in a crisis since the announcement late last month of his controversial and ultimately abandoned plan to open up the World Cup to private investors. He faces opposition in particular from UEFA, which on Thursday stood by its threat to boycott the World Cups, deeming the mere withdrawal of the controversial plan to be insufficient. Coming up next, we take a look at the shortage of cooking gas in Nepal and the government's various efforts to curb black marketing and improve the supply of cooking gas cylinders in our Issue of the Day segment after the short break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour. And now on to our Issue of the Day segment. There are signs of relief for cooking gas consumers in Nepal after weeks of shortages and long queues. Authorities say increased monitoring and higher distribution have improved supplies across the Kathmandu Valley, but consumers are still spending hours waiting for the cylinders. Officials and gas companies say the problem is no longer a lack of gas, but growing panic buying and stockpiling. Diksha Awasthi brings more.
For weeks, getting a cooking gas cylinder has meant long waits for many households in Nepal's capital. But since Sunday, the situation has begun to improve. Across the Kathmandu Valley, the country's main urban center and home to millions of people, gas companies have increased distribution through their own depots and private vendors. At Teku, one of the major gas distribution points in Kathmandu, consumers are still arriving with empty cylinders. But many say they are now getting gas more easily than before.
उतासँग प्रत्यक्ष जोडिएको कुरा हो नि त ग्यास मान्छे ग्यास झरिरहेछ प्रत्येक ठाउँमा झरिरहेछ ग्यास दिदैन ग्यास त्यो लिमिट भएर हो कि अथवा सीमित भएर हो कि अथवा आफन्तलाई बाँड्नलाई हो कि आफ्नो मान्छेलाई बाँड्न के हो आई डोन्ट नो
ल तपाईहरुले नै गरेर व्यवस्थित गरेर लानु भने पनि हामी पनि ओके छौं यहाँ सबै जनताहरु खुसी छन् यहाँ कस्तो भने मोटरसाइकल राख्ने र भिडभाड नहुने आएपछि सट्ट फिल्ममा टिकट काटेर हेरे जस्तै त्यति भए पनि गर्दिन अरु गर्न सके पनि
टेकुमै ल्याएर किन बाँड्नु पर्ने टेकुमै नबाँड्दाखेरि यही ग्यास बरु कडाईको साथ डिलरमा जस्तो कि ठाउँ ठाउँमा काउन्टर राखेर रिङ रोडको चारैतिर काउन्टर राख्दाखेरि हरेक उपभोक्तालाई सहज हुन्छ।
The government has stepped up monitoring from gas industries to distribution ports, while companies say they are sending large quantities of filled cylinders into the market every day. Gas companies estimate they are currently distributing around 65,000 filled cylinders daily, not only through major depots such as Teku, but also through vendors across Kathmandu. Yet, long queues have not disappeared. Officials and industry representatives say one reason is consumer stockpiling. According to industry data, there are an estimated 7.8 million LPG cylinders in the Kathmandu Valley. The government says the amount of gas currently available in the market is around 10% higher than normal consumption, suggesting that the current problem is less about overall supply and more about how the available gas is being distributed.
एक दुई महिना अझै यो माग बढ्न सक्छ हैन यो सर्च अगाडि कन्टिन्यू हुन सक्छ भन्ने हिसाबले हामीले चाहिँ परराष्ट्र मन्त्रालय मार्फत भारत सरकारसँग मन्त्रालयले पहल पनि गरेको छ। एकातिर भने नेपालमा प्राप्त भएका चाहिँ ग्यास सिलिन्डरहरू 58 वटा उद्योगहरू छन् फिलिङको लागि। त्यो फिलिङ भए पश्चात यथा समयमा अझ वैकल्पिक सिलिन्डर नभएको लागि चाहिँ अलिकति प्राथमिकतामा राखेर दिनुस् भन्ने हिसाबले हामीले चाहिँ निर्देशित गरेको अवस्था छ। आयल निगमले पनि सोही अनुसार वितरण प्रणाली मिलाएको छ र वाणिज्य विभागले अनुगमन पनि गरिरहेको छ। यति मात्रै होइन, विभिन्न जिल्लामा प्रमुख जिल्ला अधिकारीजीहरू उहाँहरूको टोलीले पनि अनुगमन प्रक्रिया अगाडि बढाउनु भएको छ, गुनासो सुन्नु भएको छ। स्थानीय तहहरू पनि यो विषयलाई सरकारका साथ अगाडि बढाउनु भएको छ। इस्यु त फेरि भान्सासँग जोडिएको भयो, त्यसकारणले यसलाई साझा रूपमा लिएर समाधान गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने चाहिँ भाव देखिएको छ। मलाई लाग्छ यो समाधानको दिशामा अगाडि बढेको छ।
Industry representatives are also asking consumers not to purchase or store more cylinders than they immediately need.
अब यसलाई चाहिँ कसरी समाधान गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ गर्दाखेरि अहिले हाम्रो मार्केटमा टोटल ओभरअल नेपालभरि लगभग 1,75,00,000 सिलिन्डर छन् है। हाम्रो डेली कन्जम्सन भनेको चाहिँ 35 लाख सिलिन्डर हो भनेपछि यो हिसाबले पनि लगभग अहिले 5 महिनाको स्टक चाहिँ हाम्रो उपभोक्ताहरुसँग रहिरहेको स्थिति हुन्थ्यो यदि सबै सिलिन्डरहरू भरिएको हुन्थ्यो भने। अब पहिला चाहिँ त्यसलाई त्यही सिस्टमले भरिदै चाहिँ के रे युज हुँदै 35 लाख सिलिन्डरको चाहिँ कन्जम्सन भइरहेको थियो भने बीचमा जुन 30 हजार मेट्रिक टन ग्यास कम इम्पोर्ट भयो त्यसले गर्दाखेरि भएका स्टक घट्यो र चाहिँ एउटा एक किसिमको त्रास चाहिँ के चाहिँ जनतामा चाहिँ पैदा भयो भने अब त चाहिँ चाडबाड आउँदैछ त्यसले गर्दाखेरि सिलिन्डरहरू चाहिँ हामीले स्टक गर्नुपर्छ भनेर 5 वटा सिलिन्डर हुनेले चाहिँ कसरी 7 वटा बनाउने 10 वटा हुनेले कसरी 15 वटा बनाउने भन्ने हिसाबको चाहिँ पनि स्थिति भएको देखेछौँ हामी।
Gas vendors say they are seeing the same pattern on the ground. When individual consumers keep more cylinders than necessary, sellers say it becomes harder to meet the needs of regular customers.
मका ग्यास नआएको होइन, ग्यास आइरहेको नै छ, तर के भन्दाखेरि हाम्रो लोकालिटीलाई यहाँ लोकल जुन मैले आफ्नो ग्राहकहरूलाई जति पनि ग्यास दिनुपर्ने हो तिनीहरूलाई पुगेको नै छ हैन। यहाँ नपुगेको भन्ने के भन्दाखेरि अन्त ग्यास नगएका बाहिरका अनि त्यो भएर नाम लेखेर दिइरहेको छु, त्यति हो।
The figures suggest that Nepal is currently importing and distributing enough LPG to meet and potentially exceed normal demand. The country consumes between 42,000 and 45,000 metric tons of LPG each month, according to industry estimates.
Nepal has intensified market monitoring to curb black marketing and improve the supply of cooking gas. The move follows repeated complaints that traders are creating artificial shortages and charging high prices despite regular gas imports from India. Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Supplies is coordinating with the Ministry of Home Affairs to strengthen inspections, particularly at gas depots in the Kathmandu Valley. Industry Ministry Joint Secretary Netra Prasad Subedi says monitoring has become more continuous and effective, with gas supplies gradually easing. Following Industry Minister Gauri Kumari Yadav's request, Home Minister Sudan Gurung has also instructed police to provide security coordination and support at depots to prevent activities that disrupt supplies and affect the consumers. The Nepal LP Gas Industry Association has urged consumers not to stockpile cooking gas cylinders, saying LPG imports from India are increasing and the supply is expected to remain stable. Association President Diwan Bahadur Chand said unnecessary purchases are contributing to the current shortage and that the situation could ease quickly if consumers buy only what they need. According to the association, Nepal Oil Corporation has increased LPG imports from Indian refineries by around 15% to meet market demand. The industry says it is continuously refilling and distributing cylinders and making efforts to ensure adequate supplies for the consumers. The association has also urged gas sellers to prioritize household customers when distributing LPG. Coming up next, International Day of Indigenous Peoples has once again put a spotlight on not just preservation and promotion of indigenous culture, but also the issues of equal rights and participation. We take a closer look at this in our cover story segment after the short break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour. And now on to our cover story segment. Today is International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples, a day to recognize the cultures, knowledge and traditions of indigenous communities around the world. But this year, the United Nations is putting the spotlight on a specific group of knowledge holders, indigenous midwives. Here's a report by April Kisinglama.
For generations, indigenous midwives have helped mothers and newborns using knowledge passed down through their communities. This year, the United Nations is highlighting that role under the theme Honoring Indigenous Midwives, Safeguarding Life and Well-being. The theme recognizes their contribution to maternal and newborn care, particularly in communities where access to formal health care is limited. However, the recognition of traditional knowledge also raises questions about safety, rights, and accountability. Colombia offers one example. In some Embera indigenous communities, female genital mutilation has been documented as a traditional practice. Reports have linked the practice to serious health complications and deaths, although the full scale remains difficult to establish because many cases occur in remote communities. The issue has prompted indigenous women and leaders to campaign against the practice through Niñas Sin Ablación, or Girls Without Mutilation.
Yo pregunté a mi hermana mayor que si a nosotros le habrían hecho eso, porque yo no sabía nada de eso. Ella me dijo, sí, a nosotros sí. A todos nosotros que somos mujeres nos hicieron eso. Eso todo, antiguamente las abuelitas hacían eso a nosotros, sí.
Their advocacy helped push Colombia to approve legislation in June aimed at preventing female genital mutilation and providing protection and support for survivors, with indigenous communities involved in its implementation. The case highlights an important distinction. Respecting indigenous knowledge does not mean accepting practices that can cause harm. The UN says indigenous midwives often face discrimination and limited recognition within formal healthcare systems. It calls for greater recognition of their knowledge while ensuring women and newborns have access to safe, quality, and culturally appropriate care. The challenge extends far beyond Colombia. An estimated 476 million indigenous people live across more than 90 countries, many facing barriers to healthcare because of remoteness, discrimination, and limited services. For indigenous midwives, recognition can mean training, stronger links with formal healthcare, and support for culturally appropriate care. So this year's International Day is not only about preserving indigenous knowledge, but also about ensuring that it continues to serve communities safely and with dignity.
Nepal has marked the 32nd International Day of Indigenous Peoples with rallies, cultural performances, and calls for greater political inclusion. Indigenous communities say their concerns go far beyond preserving traditional dress, music, and language. They are also demanding equal participation, recognition of their rights, and protection of their ancestral relationship with land and nature. Aprila Khising Lama, along with Anjir Singh Bika, brings a report.
Colorful traditional dress, music, and cultural performances fill the streets of Nepal's capital as indigenous communities gather to mark the International Day of the world's indigenous peoples. Observed every August 9, the day highlights the rights, cultures, and contributions of indigenous peoples worldwide. It also marks the first meeting of the United Nations Working Group on Indigenous Populations in 1982. In Nepal, home to more than 100 ethnic groups and several major language communities, indigenous representatives say their identity is closely tied to their languages, traditions, and long-standing relationship with land and natural resources. At a program in Kathmandu, speakers said indigenous communities have preserved traditional knowledge and cultural practices for generations. However, they warned that modernization, globalization, and social change are putting some languages, customs, and traditional knowledge at risk.
अरूले उत्थान गर्ने हैन आफ्नो उत्थान आफैले गर्नुपर्छ र गर्नको लागि चाहिँ आफैले चाहिँ प्रयास गर्नुपर्छ.
Activists say indigenous identity goes beyond cultural symbols such as traditional dress and performances. They say the issue also involves equality, social justice, self-determination, and the protection of fundamental rights.
हामी सबैजनाले हाम्रो इतिहास, हाम्रो वेशभूषा, हाम्रो भाषा अगाडि बढाउनु हुन्छ भन्ने मलाई आशा लागेको छ र यसले चाहिँ हाम्रो कल्चरलाई प्रमोट पनि गर्छ है.
यो कार्यक्रमले चाहिँ हाम्रो हक स्थापित गर्छ, हाम्रो कल्चरहरू सबैमा रिप्रेजेन्ट गर्न help गर्छ.
Indigenous groups are also calling for greater representation in government and decision-making, saying their participation should extend beyond cultural celebrations to policies that directly affect their communities. According to figures cited by indigenous representatives, they currently hold about 23.62% of positions within state structures, which they say reflects a continuing gap in political representation. For participants, the celebrations are therefore not only about preserving cultural heritage. They are also a call for greater equality, representation, and recognition. As Nepal marks the International Day of Indigenous Peoples, indigenous communities are using the occasion to look beyond cultural preservation and demand a more inclusive role in shaping the country's future.
Nepal marked the 32nd World Indigenous Peoples Day with rallies, cultural performances and traditional displays across other districts of Nepal as well. Indigenous communities, including the Tharu, Rajbanshi, Santhal, Newar and Kirat Rai, showcased their traditional dress, musical instruments and cultural heritage during events in Morang and Thankuta districts. Participants warned that the loss of indigenous languages, cultures and identities threaten their communities and called for stronger protection of their existing rights and greater representation. Similar programs were held in districts including Gorkha, Kaski, Lamjung, Siangja, Tonohu, Taplejung and Sangkhwasabha, with speakers calling for a more inclusive and just society. Nepal's President Ramchandra Paudel has called for greater participation of indigenous peoples in state policy making and decision making to ensure their rights. Speaking at an event marking the 32nd World Indigenous Peoples Day, President Paudel said Nepal's ethnic, linguistic and cultural diversity is a source of national pride. He noted that indigenous representation at the local government level has reached 36.8%, but said access to education and higher levels of decision-making still needs to improve. Paudel also highlighted Nepal's ratification of ILO Convention 169 on indigenous and tribal peoples and constitutional provisions for protecting indigenous rights and interests. He called for traditional knowledge, skills and technologies to be linked with tourism and economic opportunities to strengthen the indigenous communities. In this context, we asked those gathered to mark the day about the significance of Indigenous Peoples Day. Let's hear what they had to say in today's Public Pulse.
विश्वमा रहेका आदिवासीहरूको हक अधिकार भाषा संस्कार संस्कृतिलाई जगेर्ना गर्दै आफ्नो पहिचानलाई आफ्नो मौलिक अधिकारलाई बुलन्द आवाजको साथ राज्य समक्ष पुर्याउने भन्ने उद्देश्य राखेर अहिले यो हाम्रो राज्यसँग पनि आदिवासीहरू चाहिँ संरक्षित र सुरक्षित रहोस् भन्ने उद्देश्यले आज अगाडि बढिरहेको छ।
हामी विश्वमा छरिएर रहेका आदिवासी जनजातिहरू एकरूपता बनाउनका लागि आफ्नो भाषा कल्चर र संस्कृति जोगाउनका लागि चाहिँ यही आदिवासी जनजाति दिवसले चाहिँ केही महत्त्वपूर्ण राख्छ जस्तो लाग्छ।
हाम्रो एउटा यो जनजाति आदिवासी जनजातिको हक हितको लागि आफ्नो पहिचानको लागि हामी यो विश्व आदिवासी दिवस 32औं विश्व आदिवासी दिवस मनाइरहेका छौं।
यहाँ नेपालमा मात्र हैन कि विश्वभरि नै हाम्रो आदिवासीहरूको चाहिँ यो महोत्सवमा मनाउने चाहिँ यो हाम्रो अगस्त 9 मा भनेर चाहिँ हाम्रो यो गरेका छौं र आज हाम्रो यो यसरी चाहिँ विश्व आदिवासी दिवस मान्नुको कारण चाहिँ हाम्रो विश्वभरिको आदिवासीहरू चाहिँ एकजुट हुनुपर्छ।
यसमा हामीले सबै जनजाति आदिवासीले हामीले एक नारा लगाएको छौं कि हाम्रो अधिकार सुनिश्चित गर्नुस् हैन र सरकारले पनि हामी आदिवासीलाई एकै नासले हेर्दिनु पर्यो र
आउने दिनहरुमा पनि यसरी नै हामी सम्पूर्ण आदिवासी जनजाति चाहिँ जम्मा भएर हामीले यो खुला मञ्चमा यसरी नै फेरि हामीले दिवस मनाउन पाऊ।
नेपाली दाजुभाइ दिदीबहिनी आदिवासी जनजातिहरुमा चाहिँ भाइचारा कायम होस् हैन, एकता कायम रहोस्।
That was the cover story segment. Now let's move on to other updates. Kiran Singh, a former mayor of Kapilvastu municipality in southern Nepal, has been found dead after being reported missing on Friday. Police said Singh's body was discovered in a forest area near the motorcycle he had been using after search teams spent several days looking for him. The 65-year-old left his home in Kapilvastu municipality around 2 p.m. on Friday, and CCTV footage later showed him traveling towards Ramraj Bridge. Police said Singh contacted a close friend after reaching the bridge and reported that he had lost his way in the forest, prompting relatives and local residents to begin searching. His motorcycle was located a day before his body was found, and police say an investigation is underway to determine the circumstances surrounding his death. Tourist access to Antu, a popular scenic destination in eastern Nepal, has improved after major repairs to the Fikal-Antu road damaged by the landslide last year. The road was severely affected by unstable ground and landslides during a disaster on October 10, 2025, disrupting travel to the area. Reconstruction includes 2 4-meter-wide slab culverts, concrete structures and gabion walls designed to stabilize slopes and improve the drainage. The Ilam Road Division says about 80% of the gabion work and most of the culvert construction have been completed, although the overall project is still underway. The restored section is already allowing larger tourist vehicles to reach Antu, which attracts more than 100,000 domestic and international visitors each year and is renowned for its sunrise views over Nepal's eastern hills. The financial condition of Nepal's Upper Tamakoshi Hydropower Limited has improved after 4 years of losses since the start of electricity generation. The 456-megawatt project in Lamabagar Dolakha has benefited from improved plant operations, higher electricity sales, lower hydrological penalties, and reduced interest rates on long-term loans. Acting CEO Purnagopal Ranjit says the company has now reached a position where it is earning a profit of around 1 billion Nepali rupees. Upper Tamakoshi had previously been required to pay a hydrological penalty to the Nepal Electricity Authority when its power generation fell below the level expected from the water available in the Tamakoshi River, paying about 1 billion rupees in penalties over 4 years. However, the company did not have to pay the penalty in the last fiscal year, further improving its financial position. Now, before we check more updates, let's have a reminder of our top stories. Nepal boosts LPG imports from India. Market inspections intensify to curb shortages. Nepal marks World Indigenous Peoples Day. Communities call for greater rights and cultural protection. Nepal's ruling RSP launches Minister-Citizen Dialogue. Congress vows to hold government accountable. Oman and Iran advance Hormuz talks. Strait reopening still subject to conditions. Typhoon Dolphin makes landfall in China. Several flights cancelled. And FIFA defends Infantino amid growing controversy. Governing body rejects claims as president faces pressure. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected U.S. President Donald Trump's 15-point plan for Gaza, stating that no military pullout will happen until Hamas is disarmed. Trump's Board of Peace said last month it had reached an agreement for the complete disarmament of Hamas and other armed groups in Gaza. But Hamas said handing over its heavy weapons was contingent on Israel ending all forms of aggression and withdrawing its forces from Gaza. Netanyahu, at a cabinet meeting on Sunday, said Israel rejected the 15-point document.
ישראל שוללת את מספר 15 הנקודות. צה"ל לא יבצע נסיגה כלשהי עד פירוק החמאס מנשקו. בנוסף, צה"ל ימשיך לסכל את האיומים נגד כוחותינו ואזרחינו.
A Russian strike on the Ukrainian city of Odessa injured 8 people and sparked fires across several parts of the city, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Firefighters were working to extinguish the blazes, including one at a 4-story residential building in central Odessa that was damaged in the attack. The strike caused damage to residential and other infrastructure in the city, with emergency crews deployed to assess the damage and respond to the fires. The attack also disrupted emergency response operations as crews worked to contain the fires and assess damage across the affected areas. A state of emergency has been declared after thousands of people were forced to flee their homes as the fast-moving wildfire in a remote part of Western Canada spread rapidly, doubling in size since it was first detected on Friday. The Bald Range fire now occupies more than 103 square kilometers across the Summerland, Beachland and other districts of British Columbia, according to the BC Wildfire Service. British Columbia Premier David Eby told a news conference on Saturday that one fire official had likened the fire to a bomb going off. A state of emergency allows the provincial government access to special powers, including travel restrictions and supply protections to prevent price gouging and extra resources to coordinate the rescue work. Colombian President Abelardo de la Espriella has ordered the transfer of 117 high-profile inmates to maximum security prisons at the start of his term, according to the authorities. The inmates had participated in peace talks under former President Gustavo Petro. The transfers mark an early security measure by the new administration as it seeks to tighten control over high-profile prisoners. The move could also signal a tougher approach to security and negotiations with armed groups under the new government. The move comes as the new administration signals a tougher security policy toward high-profile prisoners involved in the previous government's peace process. Japan's Nagasaki marked the 81st anniversary of the U.S. atomic bombing on Sunday, with city officials and representatives from 98 countries attending an annual peace ceremony. So the city observed a moment of silence at 11:02 a.m., the exact time the bomb exploded on August 9, 1945. More than 73,000 people were estimated to have died by the end of that year, while many survivors later suffered radiation-related illnesses. Survivor Chiyoko Motomura, who was 6 years old when the bombing occurred, delivered a pledge for peace, calling for the protection of human life and an end to war. Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi said Japan would continue to uphold its 3 non-nuclear principles and pursue efforts toward a world without nuclear weapons, reaffirming Japan's position as the only country to have suffered atomic bombings during the wartime. Business news lined up next. For now, a short breather.
China's People's Bank of China, or PBOC, and Malaysia's Central Bank of Malaysia have renewed and expanded their bilateral currency swap agreement, increasing the facility to 220 billion yuan from 180 billion yuan. The agreement, equivalent to 130 billion ringgit, will remain valid for 5 years and can be extended by mutual consent, according to the PBOC. The agreement is valid for 5 years and can be extended upon mutual consent. The central banks said the expanded swap facility will support greater use of the yuan and ringgit in bilateral transactions, facilitate trade and investment, and help maintain financial market stability. The U.S. economy shed 23,000 jobs in July 2026, marking a sharper than expected slowdown in employment, according to government data. Job losses were concentrated in local government, education, and retail, while the Bureau of Local Statistics revised down job gains for May and June by a combined 103,000. The weaker employment figures could ease pressure on the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates next month, month, although inflation remains elevated. It also signals a broader slowdown in the US economy as businesses reduce hiring amid persistent inflation and uncertainty over interest rates. Peru will prioritize social inclusion, equal opportunities, and more efficient public investment as part of its economic policy, Finance Minister Elmer Cuba said. Cuba said the government aims to reduce the country's poverty rate to 15% by the end of its mandate, making poverty reduction a key target of its economic program. The government also plans to provide financial assistance to people affected by the El Niño weather phenomenon, which has caused economic disruption and losses in affected areas. Cuba said improving the efficiency of public investment will be another priority, with the government seeking to ensure greater impact from public spending while expanding support from vulnerable communities. The measures are expected to combine fiscal investment with targeted social assistance as Peru seeks to strengthen economic opportunities and reduce poverty.
Time now for sports update. Nepal's National Sports Council, the country's main government body overseeing sports, has called its 125th board meeting after an 8-month gap. The meeting is scheduled for next Thursday and will be the council's first board meeting since December 24th. Among the key issues expected to be discussed are preparations for the 20th Asian Games, the date for Nepal's 10th National Games, and the suspension of the All Nepal Football Association (ANFA). Although the formal agenda contains 9 items, these 3 issues are expected to dominate discussions because of their significance for Nepal's current sporting calendar and administration. The meeting is expected to provide direction on preparations for major international competition, as well as the country's domestic games and football governance. Fans and residents in Argentine city of Rosario gathered to pay their respects to Lionel Messi and his family following the death of his father, Jorge Messi. People in the Argentine city expressed condolences and offered support to the football star and his family as they mourned the loss. Messi remains a highly popular figure in Rosario, where he was born and began his football career. Meanwhile, Messi and his family arrived in Rosario to attend the funeral of his father. Jorge Messi played an important role in his son's football career and was closely involved in his professional life from the early stages of Messi's rise to international prominence. The funeral brings Messi back to Rosario as the family holds a private farewell for his father. Now on to weather updates, first from Nepal and then from across the world. And that brings us to the end of this bulletin. But before we wrap up, here's a quick reminder of our top stories. Nepal boosts LPG imports from India. Market inspections intensified to curb shortages. Nepal marks World Indigenous Peoples Day. Communities call for greater rights and cultural protection. Nepal's ruling RSP launches Minister-Citizen Dialogue. Congress vows to hold government accountable. Oman and Iran advance Hormuz talks. Strait reopening still subject to conditions. Typhoon Dolphin makes landfall in China. Several flights cancelled. And FIFA defends Infantino amid growing controversy. Governing body rejects claims as the president faces pressure. That is it for this edition of NTV World News Hour. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website at nepaltelevision.com. Thank you for watching. Good night.